All right, guys, we are live with another Pangburn Hangout. We are live on the Pangburn Offensive, which is our new live stream channel. Why would we be on the Pangburn Offensive today and not the original Pangburn YouTube channel? I wonder. Could it be because of Nazis? Yes, that's right. We have Nazi in the title. We are discussing the following topic today. Were the Nazis left or right wing? There's been a fair amount of discussion on our Discord server about this topic, which I'm really excited to jump into. Why is that showing? Oh, okay, there. I'm just going to test quickly to make sure that the OBS is not fucking up the audio. Let's see. Let me go over here. Oh, we're good. We're good. So what I wanted to start with first, and we already have Don Doolittle, Hanzala, Nivik, and Symmetry 7 in the room. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people in the room for this. Feel free to comment while we are hanging out, guys, on the Discord. Hope you can get the comment section rolling on YouTube. But what I wanted to start with was the Nazi Party. So again, the question today is, were the Nazis left or right wing? So from Wikipedia, it says this article is about the Nazi Party. It starts off by saying this article is about the Nazi Party that existed in Germany from 1920 to 1945. For the ideology, see Nazism. For other Nazi parties, see Nazi Party. So I want. So the question is, were the Nazis left or right wing? So let's go with the Nazi Party for now, and we might get into Nazism a bit later. So I want to do this quick reading of the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party, officially the National Socialist German Workers' Party, was a far-right political party in Germany, active between 1920 and 1945. That created and supported the ideology of Nazism. Its precursor, the German Workers' Party, existed from 1919 to 1920. The Nazi Party emerged from the German nationalist, racist, and populist parliamentary culture, the Freikorps parliamentary culture, which fought against the communist uprisings in post-World War I Germany. The party was created to draw workers away from communism and into nationalism. Initially, Nazi political strategy focused on anti-big business, anti-bourgeoisie, and anti-capitalist rhetoric. Although this was later downplayed to gain the support of business leaders, and in the 1930s, the party's main focus shifted to anti-Semitic and anti-Marxist themes. Pseudoscientific racist theories were central to Nazism, expressed in the idea of a people's community. The party aimed to unite, quote, racially desirable Germans as national comrades while excluding those deemed either to be political dissidents, physically or intellectually inferior, or of a foreign race. The Nazis sought to strengthen the Germanic people, the Aryan master race, through racial purity and eugenics, broad social welfare programs, and a collective subordination of individual rights, which could be sacrificed for the good of the state on behalf of the people. To protect the supposed purity and strength of the Aryan race, the Nazis sought to exterminate Jews, Romani, Poles, and most other Slavs, along with the physically and mentally disabled. They probably would have killed me. So let's go back a little bit here. So on Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. They say the Nazi Party was a far-right political party. Yet we do have people that disagree with whether the Nazis or Nazism would politically fall on the left side of the political spectrum or the right side of the political spectrum. So what I wanted to do today, guys, is first talk about perhaps during that time in history what left would have been considered and what right would have been considered. And then we'll also talk about whether that has stayed true today or if there's been any shift. So we would start with that, trying to get some general definitions of where we can agree a certain idea is generally left-wing or a certain idea is generally right-wing. So why don't we start with Nivik? Nivik, can you start with left-wing ideas? So some ideas that you think are left-wing, and they can be, that they would have been at that time. And if we have to research, we can do that, or just talk about how you understand or what you think left-wing means now.
Seeing the potential in other people and not being about hierarchy, but mutually working together.
Okay, you said let's start with your first point, seeing potential in other people. Now, do you think that is not
all people?
Okay, now I just want to, and we'll use this first attempt as an example, and thanks for being the first, Nivik. Do you think that right-wing ideas, they don't value that?
In others, no.
Oh, okay.
In all people, no.
Okay.
Okay, well, yeah, but not by the person themselves, more about a dominance hierarchy.
Okay, well, let's talk about that particular point that Nivik brought up. And can you state it one more time, Nivik, just so everyone gets in the room? The left wing, you said, cares about the potential of others, or can you?
Yeah, and having a system in a way that is more about seeing people get the most of their potential.
Okay. Interesting.
In investing in equality of potential. Yeah.
Now, how about anyone else in the room? Do you agree that is, an idea that exists on the left and not on the right? Does anyone else agree with that?
I would have to hear that. The idea that the left sees potential in people and the right doesn't?
Yeah, that sounds like what Nivik is proposing.
No, I think that even on the right, a lot of people see potential in it.
Right.
I think that is a very big part of religious and especially Christian doctrine, which is very much in the right, about seeing potential in people,
right?
Personal responsibility, drug addicts, how they can overcome their problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Nivik, after you've heard that, do you want to scrap that, or are you sticking to that?
Well, some people have views on the right of inherent values, naturally inherent values of people that are just not naturally in some.
Okay, but now, Nivik, what I'm going to ask you is, have you ever do you hear people say that? Do you hear people write about that idea? And if so, where who have you read or heard about that? Or is that just kind of your interpretation of what you see going on out there?
No, I just hear people make comments like that.
Like what? Can you give me some examples of the comments?
People, I guess, don't have natural inherent values in seeing, of knowing what is good in worth, and they don't have natural inherent morals.
Okay, it sounds like what can I try something here, Nivik? Are you saying that you're going to find more people on the right who think that there is an objective moral standard than on the left?
Yeah, and and lacking of values.
Okay, now before we go any further, does anyone disagree with that you're going to find more moral objectivists on the right than you would on the left?
I would have to see polling data for that.
Generally? Okay, well, let's go
I don't
through.
know.
Let's look. Let's look at the United States right now.
That's good.
So, let's look at religious demographics. This is going to give us a general idea.
Yeah.
States. Religion versus poll. Religion versus politics poll. That should give us something here. Okay.
I would assume that most right-wing people are going to be more morally objective, but that's just an assumption. I can't say that.
Right. Well,
because
but
they're usually more religious, but
yeah. So let's see. I want to look at this actual, and we're gonna take our time to go through information today, guys.
Absolutely.
So feel free to sit back, and also feel free to help too. Like if you guys have some good research,
I found some good stuff.
Whenever we get time. Moral objectivism, I also want to say that I feel that during the civil rights movement, much of the religious power in that movement was because it was morally objective. I said, human rights are moral objective. They're not questioned. They're not relative. Being human. And I think that it depends on what your goal is. I think that is more of a tactic to try to prove your point, rather than something your point is based on.
Right.
A lot of apologists argue today that the reason why we went into World War II to stop the Nazis is because we had the objective moral high ground of God. That was an argument that was
religion
made a lot
is always
to get into
used
the war
in everything,
then.
though.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm just hesitant to say the moral objective is some sort of characteristic that defines right.
Right. And the most I think we could say is that you will probably find more on one side than the other.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
So let's see.
At least today.
Yeah.
At least today, because when you go back to like the French Revolution and American founding, they were all very much more objective.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So we can do it now. Does anyone object to making this statement that today you will find more moral objectionists, or let's clarify that a little more. More people who subscribe to an objective morality from God on the right side of the political aisle as opposed to the left, and we're talking about just today. Yeah. Does anyone object to that?
No.
Nay.
I object to that.
You do object?
Yeah.
Okay, Doolittle, can we hear your objection?
Okay, today, the today version of left and right is in one place, and back then it might have been in a different place, but today Catholics are almost always, I'd say they're very generally on the left.
Okay.
And I would say that part of Catholic doctrine is Bruce can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's moral objectivism in the Catholic doctrine. And Jews also have more of a tendency to be on the political left, and to the extent that they're religious.
Fact check that, the Catholic on the left.
Well, sir, this is what I'm trying to find right now. Religion and politics in the United States on Wiki. Here we go. Oh, this is what I was looking for. Okay, so all Catholics, You're right. 70%. And this is, let me just get a date on this. I fucking hate it when, okay, here we go. Oh, that's late 19th. Let's go to, parties by religion. This is, okay, 2014. Okay, here we go. Mormons are 70% Republican. Let's see when we go. Oh, okay. So where's the final breakdown here? Man, I'm gonna share this with you guys. This image.
Can I say something with religion? In the past, is that a lot of folks in the past that use religion, a lot of it was about using religion to lead more away from a religious worldview of enlightenment thinking and secularism than more towards it. It's just like you can't just say at a time that you're just anti-God because it couldn't be.
Don't get away from what we're talking about here. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm posting this in the voice text, guys. This is it's from 2014. The religious breakdown, the political preferences of U.S. religious groups. This is okay. I'm going to pull it up.
You've got some really good info too.
Yeah, post it. Post everything you guys are finding in the voice text, and eventually we will move it over to the proper categories. But for the sake of what we're doing here today, let's do that. Now, Southern Baptists are very, very much.
I'll have to go, but I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. So isn't it interesting that, like, what do you guys make of this chart? I'd like to, before I say what I think, I'd like to hear what you guys think about it.
Still reading it.
Right. Orthodox Christians. You have Democratic.
Yeah, so Catholics are slightly Democratic leaning, and they mirror the average of the U.S. is what it looks like to me.
Right.
And then your Eastern religions, Muslims, Hindus, all those have more of a tendency to be left leaning in the U.S.
Right. Interesting.
So
okay, well let's scrap the statement.
It's not really surprising.
Yeah, let's scrap that statement of moral objectivity for now. I want to go to Doolittle since your mic's open. What is an idea or anything that you would like to argue ought to be on the left or right side of the political column?
What ought to be on the left? I would say bigger government on the left. Oh, okay. Let me start over.
Yep.
So on the left, as it was originally defined, I went over this with Chad, and we actually found some common ground. So it was originally defined in the French Revolution, essentially. The revolutionaries who were socialists at the time were on the left, and it was based on the seating in the House of whatever their parliament was, and on the right was monarchists, so people who wanted to conserve the status quo of the monarchy. Is that accurate, Chad?
Chad might
I think that's what we agreed on, sort of the classical definition of the left and the right. And so the right kind of got a conservative, maintained the status quo, and the left got what the French Revolution saw as overthrowing the monarchy.
Okay. Well, I'm going to use. I'm going to just.
I'm
going to use on the right, conserve the status quo, Now, does anyone disagree about that being on the right, conserving the status quo as a general attitude, idea of the right wing?
No, don't disagree.
That's good.
And we can always come back to it, of course. Okay, so on the right, we have locked in to conserve the status quo.
I would say traditionalism in general would be a good.
For the right?
Traditionalism, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Traditionalism, okay. Anyone else disagree with traditionalism on the right? And this isn't to say that you can't be traditional on the left.
Yeah.
Now, bigger government. Let's get back to the left column. Does anyone disagree with bigger government on the left column? And is there a better way to put that?
I
guess you could say less tribal. Less tribal, maybe than the right. I'm not sure.
Definitely a better way to put that.
So
I didn't put that very.
How about
the Republicans in America?
How
just
about
as
more
about big government? Yeah.
or how about maximizing socialized policies?
Yeah, that's good.
For the left.
Yeah. Extending and enhancing social policies, yeah.
Okay. So we got, so far on the left, we got maximizing social policies. On the right, we have to conserve the status quo and traditionalism. It seems like yeah, okay. So what else we got? How about for the left? We need another one for the left here.
I mean, it's most of the time concerned with some form of progressive ideology, but that means a lot of different things for a lot of different eras of politics.
Right.
But I don't know if you could put that as an absolute label on that side, though.
Can I ask a question? What's the difference between traditionalism and conserve the status quo?
Not much.
Not much. So we should probably remove traditionalism. I'd rather have not just labels, but statements.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, to conserve the status quo on the right. And the left might say, the status quo might be wrong. And then the right will say, yes, but do you know how wrong it can go if we throw away something that might be working or that's been proven to work? You know?
So maybe revolution on the left?
Yeah, I'm going to actually jump in here. I just walked outside for a minute and definitely say no, not revolution per se, although that is more commonly affiliated with the left, quote unquote. A good thing to put in is the propensity towards egalitarian policy and equalizing social hierarchy on the left, or whether you want to call it equalization or
let's simplify.
What the hell is it? Equity?
Isn't that all under civil liberties though? Basically,
similar.
Yeah.
In a way. What were you saying?
Okay.
I was saying let's simplify it into a short statement that embodies that idea.
Propensity towards egalitarian policy.
So Chad, you're not open to wanting change, revolution.
No,
That's not what he
I
said.
didn't say that. No.
That's not what he said.
No.
Okay. Let's simplify it even further. The more we simplify these statements, the more we're going to locate agreement.
The reason why I said that is because it's opposite of the conserve the status quo.
It's not necessarily.
But Nivik, this is a bad understanding of politics and a bad foot to start on, thinking that you're going to find one of these simplified statements on the right and you're going to find the opposite on the left. It's not opposite.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of interplay.
So let's go.
It's very gray.
Yeah. Now
I'll say this: one's more open to change and one isn't.
Yeah. So to conserve the status quo on the right, we said that we agreed that was a good statement for the right. right? And then it's not something that the left would necessarily generally be willing to claim to conserve the status quo. Now,
What would that make them
how
do?
do we simplify? Hang on, Nivik. How do we simplify what Chad was getting at?
So I'm not entirely sure what needs to be simplified. If you say the left as a general rule is more egalitarian, would that be acceptable? I mean,
Let's
What do you mean by egalitarian?
exactly. So
It's
let's
a political term.
So So let's seriously take the meaning of that and be pragmatic with it. Simplify it. Communicate it to absolutely everyone.
Okay.
Equality is basically what egalitarian means, just looking
left
towards equal
tends-
rights.
There you go.
Yeah, you should have said that.
Okay, wait.
Okay, so all humans are equal in fundamental worth or moral status. That's what egalitarian means.
Yeah.
So
Hold on, I'm losing you guys. What were you saying?
hang on. Let's focus on this idea of equality and whether we're going to come into a problem where, because does the room not think that the right side of the political aisle is for equality?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, you don't think? What about
No.
equality of opportunity?
No.
You don't think the right side of the political aisle is for
I
absolute?
think good, honest, right people would probably say that, but I mean, reasonable people who weren't racist and things like that, yeah.
Ooh, and then aren't you also going to run into those people on the left?
Yes.
So perhaps, and what I'm trying to do is see if we can make a statement about equality that's particular to one side of the political spectrum.
Yeah, that would encapsulate it pretty well. I don't know.
Oh, how about this?
If you would
How
go
about
ahead.
the idea of you? How about you are free to either succeed or fail? Is that a right? Would that be a right? A right statement that the right wing conservative would be happy to claim?
There's so many different right wings. I know it's difficult.
Yeah, these things are hard.
How about
But
how about equality of outcome versus, or you could say equity versus equality under the law?
That's not necessarily a right-left divide, though. What I think
Sure.
maybe we might be touching around the fact that the left, quote unquote, has a propensity of, I guess, going against or has a higher concern for equalizing a social hierarchy, whereas the right tends to accept and promote a social hierarchy, however that may
Yeah.
be. If I'm trying to
sounds good.
abstract it as best as possible, I mean,
No, yeah. That
well, you
sounds
have
good.
to. You have to. I mean, people who don't do this, you'll never get anywhere in a conversation. You know, and
I agree.
I've been seeing evidence of this in our in some of our tabs on the Discord, and that's why we're doing this.
so if I could make a statement, say the right leans towards the establishment and maintenance of social hierarchies, and the left leans towards a more egalitarian reformation. Does that make sense, or it leads to a more?
It's kind of almost like revolution.
Those aren't antithetical to one another.
Right. So
I know,
right.
but this is so abstracted. It doesn't.
Well, this is an easy thing we're tackling. So
Maintaining the social hierarchies. Now, Doolittle.
maintaining and
Would you-
establishing. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about establishing, right? But let's check in. Let's see what Doolittle might think in the rest of the room. Would you accept maintaining the social hierarchies as a right-leaning goal?
Maintaining social hierarchies. Huh? I see that as much on the left as I see it on the right.
Right. Okay.
The left has their own social hierarchies.
Explain.
They're just different.
Oh, what about the
Explain.
right? The right is maintaining social hierarchies, but maybe on the left you would say equalizing social hierarchies.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I think
Yeah, well,
It's-
I think, and let's toss that around. I'm going to put it in for now. Let's everyone digest that. Equalizing social hierarchies.
So the right is about equalizing social hierarchy.
Left.
No,
Left.
no,
Left.
no.
Okay.
That was the difference between when we're talking about social hierarchies. There's a maintaining the social hierarchies. A lot of conservatives would say it's important that we maintain these hierarchies because from a economy standpoint, we want to make sure that the ladder to climb in capitalism is maintained. Maybe that would be one justification for it.
So
and then
here's
yeah.
the thing: when we run into using market systems as a left-right thing, it tends to muddy the waters a little bit. If we're talking about just philosophy alone, as it's been historically established, I would say we're touching on the correct thing when we say right wing tends to establish and maintain social hierarchies due to almost like a natural law or desirable law.
Yeah, and these are just
these hierarchies are.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And these statements that we're creating ought to be taken as literal, even though they're general ideas. But I want the statements to be agreed upon, so that we're not going to keep going back to,
have a baseline.
Worrying about how this is worded or that it's manufactured in a way to seem politically biased or something like that. I want to get to the honest agreed differences here.
Yes.
Now, what are some other things and of course we can Mace is typing in the YouTube chat. He says he disagrees with everything we have all said.
Oh, nice. Cool.
I expect that from Mace.
Where is this? Where did he put it?
In the YouTube chat. He's just he's on
YouTube chat.
Yeah. Okay, now let's we got so far on the left we got maximizing socialized policies and equalizing social hierarchies. On the right we have to conserve the status quo. I would like to add to I don't think we need to. Okay, to conserve the status quo, maintaining the social hierarchies.
Yeah.
Can I put
Or how about you can say institutions in general?
I heard the first point you said. Can you restate that?
The first
point.
On the left or on the right?
Left.
Oh, on the left, maximizing socialized policies.
You see, I think that would you consider? People consider the populist right to be on the left because the populist right is okay with socialized policies so long as
they are.
These are
that are a part of the group or in their identity.
So yeah, it's we can talk about this as well, but we are trying to get to some, general principles, and there might be
axioms.
yeah, and there might be some exceptions to these rules, of course, on either side. But if we're looking at these, these both sides of the political aisle here in kind of a general sense, and what kind of general statements do we think we could yell in a room full of people who consider themselves left and right?
Okay, yeah, that's just according to status quo in the United States. Or maybe Canada, I believe it.
Yeah. So instead of saying social hierarchies, maybe it's better to say institutions.
Instead of hierarchies.
An institution
I have something better, by the way.
Nivik, wait, Nivik. Only if it's to do with exactly what Doolittle just said.
Yes. What is power hierarchy? Because things change over time. Where people would one time when they're left and they're more in a position of power, they would not more be conservative in their views. And because there's a lot of both sides of things where you have some things that are viewed as left on the right and the right on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don, you have something?
Power hierarchy.
I think that social programs, like we said, doesn't fit in necessarily with the left or the right. The right can very well be pro, like, tax breaks for families, or tax break for certain jobs, or tax or different type of tariffs. So I don't think that goes there, but I do think that narrowing in on hierarchy really separates the split, where right-wing conservative ideas are one that try to maintain hierarchy, whether it be to create hierarchy between races, as we see in the past, or maintain hierarchies in meritocracies, right? Oh, this person is wealthier and more successful businessman because he earned it. The system is fair. This hierarchy is good. The left wants to make less and less hierarchies in general. So, like, even the far extreme left, like, no hierarchy. No, like, I don't care if you're like 5'1". That doesn't mean that you can't play sports and basketball, right? It's a complete elimination of all hierarchy.
Well, no,
the right is the conservation of hierarchies.
Okay, you said Nazism was anti-bourgeois and America revolted against hierarchy where they're conservatives. People were conservatives in their view in where we had a civil war.
Nivik,
can we keep it to English? I don't know what bourgeois means.
Yeah, Nivik, just hang on.
The upper class.
So we're having a conversation about. Let's run through this again. I want to hear what everyone thinks. So it sounds like Don was saying that he likes this idea of, but maximizing socialized policies. He was arguing may not be a good one for the left side of the political aisle. What do you think, Bruce?
I'm sorry. He was arguing what might not be a good side,
we currently have on the left the state, the claim to wish to maximize socialized policies, and it sounds like what Don was saying is that this is very important to the right as well.
Yeah, it is. I think that it's based in identity, from what I can tell. It's only insofar as that it represents the identities that are wishing to be represented in the social program. So, like, the social programs are only encouraged or desirable if they support the identities of the cause, whether that be on the left or the right. So I think that's like, it's important to make the distinction that people are associating their programs or their decisions around which programs should exist based in the identities that they wish to see franchised or at least represented.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that, like, there are people on the right and the left that would agree that there should be certain programs in social programs, but they would disagree with the identity of those that receive the programs.
Right.
And how that would come about.
Okay. So.
No.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead, Chad. Go ahead, Chad.
I was saying that I think Dan was 100% right when we really have to focus in on the hierarchy difference, the social hierarchy and the preservation or dissolution of any social hierarchy is kind of at the core, as of right now, of the left-right debate.
Yes. So
hierarchy, period, even non-social.
But I think
I think it's most.
I think Bruce was talking about the socialized policies point. The hierarchies is the next one. Right.
Okay, so here's a way to make a statement on the socialized policies that maybe. So it's a question: do you agree, strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree with this statement? Most social problems are best solved by government policy.
See, that would be an interesting point.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I would say no.
To ask,
That
that's a good way of
sounds like a
framing
rabbit
it.
hole.
I'd say no.
That situates out authoritarian versus libertarian as opposed to left and right. So that doesn't have anything to do with the left-right divide. It has something to do with authoritarian versus libertarian.
There's authoritarian right, authoritarian left, authoritarian period is sort of the argument. But I mean, it still is like centralized. So not well, really, like the issue would be addressing the hierarchy. Is that addressed from a centralized, consorted effort, or is that addressed individualistically?
Okay,
That
so
doesn't have
Oh,
left right though.
okay,
Well, it kind of does though, because there's a difference between those who wish to maintain the hierarchy and those who wish to upset the hierarchy. And then how do you do that?
Depends
It's
how
not
you
how
view
yet.
it. Depends how you view the hierarchy.
okay, so let's table the hierarchy for a second here. Let's focus on some. Let's focus on some perhaps policies. How about how about this? We want absolute gun freedom. Is that is a absolute freedom on firearms a something that for the main part a right-wing thinker would want, or do you think?
I have a lot
No.
of friends that are
Generally,
left
today.
that are
No.
pro-gun, so
Not at
Oh,
all.
so Chad,
it's both across.
so Chad, you're okay with, or Chad, you don't think there should be background checks?
What does that have to do with whether or not guns are left or right?
Did you listen to the question I asked?
Access to or not?
You guys didn't. You guys started answering before I even. It didn't even compute exactly what I asked you. I
Okay, then go
asked
ahead
you
and
if you
reiterate it.
believe in maximally free, 100% free. Let me state as many ways as I can. Absolute freedom to guns. No, absolutely no government say everyone gets freedom to firearms.
Do I believe that?
Yeah.
No.
And now, would you think that you would find more people that do believe that on the right than on the left?
No.
Okay. Anyone
Based
else?
on Mark's quote alone, under no pretext shall be. Well, I mean, I guess that's a question that needs to be directed on or redefined is a better word, based on the historicity of whatever you're arguing. Because if you're saying, hey, this is modern day left
like
or
you're
right, well,
dodging.
you're arbitrarily redefining it.
Go
Full
ahead,
quote.
Doolittle.
Let me just pull it up here. Under no
Chad's
pretext.
just dodging the question.
Yeah, it does sound like a dodge. I want to
So,
go.
I
under
think
no
he's actually
pretext
answering
should
that.
arms and ammunition
Okay.
should be surrendered. Any attempts to disarm the people must be stopped by force if necessary.
So-
That's a Marxist quote. and
Why are you
most of-
referencing a Marxist quote when I just asked you? You know, how many people do you think the majority on the right would think that they should have absolute freedom to guns, or on the left? What the hell does Marx have anything to do with that?
Because you're attempting to delineate between left and right
Pardon me?
based on my personal
I'm
decision.
I'm asking you.
So-
I'm asking you a question of where if you think the people who are absolute, because people like that exist, right? People who just think guns should be a free for all and there should be no limits on it.
would that be
Yeah,
the
I'm one of
fringe,
those.
or is that going to be a large
Well,
amount
this
of
is what
people
I'm
on either
asking the
left or
room.
right?
Can you guys
I
hear?
think
I think he
that's a
thinks it doesn't
libertarian.
matter. It could
That's a
be either
libertarian
side.
authoritarian, because the freedom
it's
to
fringe.
defend yourself, is a corollary to self ownership.
The reason I would say it's fringe
It's not
is
a
because you
left
can
or
look
right
at-
divide.
I'll say it's fringe because you can look at the states in the United States and the federal constitution's limitations on firearms, and by and large, the evidence there shows that most people are not interested in unfettered access on the whole. Like in the
Correct.
United States,
Yeah.
evidence
So-
proves that that's not the case.
Okay.
And so
Yes.
if we're going to say what
That's
currently
what I was
is,
saying.
Now,
that currently is not.
but that's not answering the question, right? So
I'll answer it. I'll
what?
say yes.
Just
on the right.
just hang on. For those people that do exist, do you think you are going to find any of those people on the left side of the political spectrum, or are you mostly going to find those people that do exist on the right side of the
mostly
political
on the
spectrum?
right.
Right.
Find
So
them
this is
on
what
the
I'm.
right.
Does anyone disagree that you're mostly going to find those people on the right?
No.
I don't disagree with that at all.
In today's
Yeah, we're talking about
political
today.
climate,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Yeah, I mean that's easily done.
Let me know.
And why do you? And let's get to.
Sorry.
And let's try to just think for a second on this. Why do you think that is the case?
Can you hear me
Fear
clearly?
of large government?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, let's
Mason.
let Mace go.
I would say fear of large government being the main thing on the right that would want them unfettered access to guns. I mean, just a guess.
Fear of large
What
government.
you guys are talking about right now is the gun spectrum, not the political spectrum. Guns
Yeah.
have nothing to do
They're
with
connected. They're connected.
You guys,
Well, you got
we're-
original, what are you saying?
I said that we were going to move into
Yeah.
policy for a second here. Do you agree that gun control is an issue of policy?
Yes.
So stop trying to deflect from the goddamn question. If these
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, so Travis, I think it's pretty much painfully obvious that the platform of the left in America today is that we need more gun control to prevent things like school shootings
Right.
and all the mass killings and et cetera that you see in the news. And the platform on the right is that more freedom for people to keep and bear arms will reduce the prevalence and the severity of these mass shootings.
Yeah, even though you'll get some people on either side of the political spectrum disagreeing on that. Do we all agree that that's a general reading of how those policies lie today? And let's say use the United States as an example.
I mean, I would think that's fair. That's a fair representation
Sure.
today.
I
Is
can say
generally.
that, yeah.
Generally.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Dennis Prager take on this exact argument is that the left in America has this position because they ignore human incentive and disincentive in their policy thinking.
Now, to simplify this, are
that
we
mean?
happy for me to say on the left side of the political spectrum more gun control generally?
Yeah. Today, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chad shaking his head no. So Chad, you don't
I think
think
he's
that's
an outlier, man.
So that's the thing. It's not a left-right divide, and wouldn't necessarily mean anything if we're already presupposing the redefinition of left and right. That's why
It does point to a cluster though.
Yeah,
And
so
clustering
that's
is-
cluster.
there's definitely clusters.
Chad, is gun control not one of the primary things used during a political campaign for someone who's on the left trying to satisfy the voting constituency?
Again,
Definitely
yes.
one of them.
Now, I will agree with that.
That's
but
what I'm talking about. I'm not saying anything outside of that, dude.
I will point out the fact that once you accept that, when we're talking about a left-right divide, and then we use that to apply, hey, are the Nazis left or right, then that ends up causing problems because you're presupposing a definition already. So that's all I'm trying to point out. 'Cause I agree with what you're saying.
We're not
presuppose something.
So
I don't think
yeah,
there are any
like
preconceived notions here.
these are go ahead, Don.
I think in hanging Chad, are you saying that we should be careful to make sure that we don't scale or like make an error, that since it is true that in today's American left climate, people are more likely to be pro gun control, that's not a necessary component of left wing
Yeah, so no one's saying it is.
Yes.
No one said that it is. Yeah.
Pangburn is making sure that we are just aware that we're simply talking in today's climate. This is the case.
Yeah.
Okay, then yeah. I can accept
and
that.
how this stuff is
on today's
applied
climate, yeah.
and how this stuff is applied will come up when we start looking at Nazism and the Nazi Party. Now, what else? So on the left, we have equalizing social hierarchies, and then
Abolishing social hierarchies on the left.
you think so? instead of equalizing?
On the far
Yeah,
left.
I don't know if you could
The further,
abolish them.
the further, the further
isn't
you go left, the more it
intersectionality
tries to
not social
abolish it,
hierarchy?
and then the further you go right, the more it tries to maintain / enshrine them.
Now,
Yeah, so you go like R versus K selected, I guess, on that.
does anyone disagree with replacing equalizing with abolishing on the left?
Either way.
Well, that's the same thing.
Because Chad agreed to equalizing the first time, but do you think abolishing is better, Chad?
I don't necessarily think it's better, but if we're using it as a descriptor for the entirety of the spectrum, as long as we do what Dan did and specifically say that the farther left you go, the more you lean into abolishment, sure, that makes sense.
Okay, so I'm slow.
If you talk about it like that, though, you're not describing the spectrum itself. You're just making observations of where people happen to be at the time. A spectrum has one variable that can change, and that's it. It's exact and perfect. You can't say, like, some people on the left and the right agree on this one thing, but it's mostly on the right, so it's a right-wing policy. So that's not how spectrums work. Because that's like saying the color red is kind of on the left side of the rainbow, but it's also kind of on the right side.
Yeah, and guys,
I agree.
Guys, and just to state, we are trying to identify agreed upon differences of these two sides of the political spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And
if we're gonna call it a spectrum, then there can only be one difference. If there are multiple differences,
I don't care what we call it. It doesn't. Mace, I don't give a fuck what we call it. Sides of the hockey rink, two different hockey rink teams. I don't care.
Always hockey with you.
It's always hockey with me.
So Mace is saying it's things are relative. Like what you call as the left can be the right. Like what we call conservative
right,
today.
Nivek.
It could be liberal. It could be radical liberal in the past.
You're exactly right, Nivek. And one of the problems with when we start talking about Nazis is that there were in Weimar Germany, I guess post Weimar Germany, there were two socialist parties that were fighting against each other, and one of them was on the left and the other one was on the right at that time in that place.
Okay,
but both of those parties.
We're jumping ahead.
We'll get there.
Let Pangburn lead this. Let Pangburn lead
this.
Hang
on. Yeah. We'll get there. I know everyone's excited to get to the Nazis.
I got my history facts. Give me a minute. I will be listening, but I'll be back in the office for a little while.
Cool.
Unrevised history facts by Chad.
Okay, so abolishing social hierarchies. Is there any disagreement that this belongs on the left side?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say institutions, and not just hierarchy, not just social hierarchies.
What do you think of that, Don?
I disagree. I think it depends whether the institution is deemed to be causing some sort of unjust hierarchy or some sort of differentiation between people.
So I hierarchy is the most general term you can give to anything. So, like, an institution would be hierarchical.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was going. I was saying, like, to people on the right that see things on the left, there's a hierarchy.
Okay, and now sticking with...
And they're against that.
So it sounds like Doolittle...
No, but the institution is a hierarchy that pre-exists.
Oh.
So the left is not for abolishing hierarchies. They're for abolishing the existing hierarchies. And they will, in fact, supplant the existing hierarchies with their own new hierarchies.
Okay, now let's...
it's not possible to abolish the hierarchy.
Oh, but guys, we're not having an argument about whether it's possible or not. We're not having an argument about whether it's possible or not yet. We're just talking about whether it's a common goal, and I think that's what Don was pointing to.
I hear a lot of global elite rhetoric on the right.
Because we might get to a point where what they replace it with may have some structure with regards to hierarchies, but it wouldn't be a hierarchy per se. It might be described as something different or labeled as something different and has different things than a hierarchy would have. Maybe people get to have equal time at the top or something like that, which would still kind of be a hierarchy, but it would be like this equalized thing.
It's all just categorizing it, though,
Yeah. So
some people just see hierarchy one way and another person see a hierarchy another way.
Yeah. Okay. So we got the abolishing social hierarchies. This is accepted, stamped in. We're going to be able to use this, even though Chad is still cringing about it. More gun control on the left. Do we need to refine that at all?
In the current day, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
We're talking about like
Good.
broad definitions
Yep.
over the course
I
of
understand.
mankind.
But the reason why we're talking about this, Bruce, is because every time you we get into a political discussion, or I see people have political discussions, even some of the best out there, they spend 4 million hours talking about why they have the bigger dick definition than the other person, and it just is
exactly
what I don't want to get into with this Nazi thing.
I
okay.
agree.
So, we got 2 on the left. Okay. Now on the right, we have to conserve the status quo. Do we all think that is a right wing idea?
Yeah, it's conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
In the term.
Maintaining the social hierarchies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a similar
Okay.
concept.
Yep.
Let's say more gun ownership. Or how about promoting gun ownership?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you could say that.
On today's climate, yeah.
What do you think, Chad? I don't think Chad can talk. And Don, what do you think?
I would say promoting gun obsession.
Promoting
that's
gun.
That's a little loaded.
I think he's being facetious.
That term is loaded.
Don, what did you think about promoting gun ownership on the right? Because you wouldn't really get left-wing people promote, like it just in general, or like a left-wing politician promoting gun ownership for the most part.
In today's America, we will not see that.
Okay.
Or in today's political climate, I think that would not be seen.
And just so you guys know, we are talking about today's what do we want to call it?
Rendition?
The left and right of today.
Yeah.
I love, however I can simplify it, of today. There we go.
And there's even a political spectrum quiz you can take that's objective.
Sure.
It's run by a computer.
Well, I mean,
Nice.
it's objective as that could be.
It's a
Well, we don't know. We
Objective
don't
as that
know.
could be.
Okay, so
Now, we know how machine learning
Stay on
works.
topic.
okay, guys. Now let's talk about an important thing that might come up. Death and capital killing. Is it safe to say that the death penalty is a more supported practice on the right side of the political spectrum?
Yes.
Yeah.
In today's America, yes.
Pro-death penalty.
Old
Especially
Whereas,
in the South.
I think we can probably look up how many people have been executed recently and find that
it'll probably
it's
give you demographics too.
It's vanishingly small.
Sure, but
Yeah, I mean,
on both
generally,
sides.
it's
I think generally
Yeah, it is very
you're going to
small now.
find here's one thing. Generally you're going to find people on the right side of the political whatever. Mace is going to get triggered if I say spectrum again. But the right side of the
Hooray.
political spectrum, if you ask them, should a child rapist be put to death? Most wouldn't you think most right wingers would say yes?
yeah, I would
In
think
general, and then on the left, you're going to have
Who wouldn't
less
say-
people
who
saying
wouldn't say
yes.
yes to that.
a lot of people wouldn't say yes to that on the left.
I wouldn't say yes to
Left-wing
that.
People
I
are
am
gonna,
like, I am
left-wing people are going to be like, oh, that's fine.
I am
No, they'll
100.
just
Preference.
rehabilitate. They'll
I-
point studies that death.
I am
I'm
100%
with Trav
against
on
the
this.
death penalty.
Yeah.
I'm
But
against.
by and large,
penalty.
in the United States, it's become taboo in most circles. Like, they're by and large, most people are not.
Child rape has
gonna give it
just
a go.
become taboo.
No. I'm saying killing people, capital punishment in the United States, by and large, has become not okay in most people's minds, or at least not carried out
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
politically.
So neither right nor left. Capital punishment, I would say, is what do you call it when something is from the medieval ages?
Archaic,
draconian.
Archaic or
medieval.
yeah.
okay.
Draconian is what I've
So it
always
sounds
heard,
like
but
we're okay with.
Anachronistic.
So it sounds like we're okay.
Anachronistic. There you go.
We're okay with pro-death penalty on the right,
Yes.
and on the left, do we have any statements we want to make about the death penalty on the left, or is it kind of a neutral item over there?
I think it's mostly not cool over there. They would like to see rehabilitation.
I would like to see rehabilitation, so I have to say that.
A lot of people would.
So on the death penalty thing, I would say that the only societies that are left in the world that do routinely practice the death penalty are Islam and I think in China sometimes.
Oh.
And both of those are in American politics on the left.
Does the Chinese government support death penalty? They do, don't they?
Well, let's
they fucking chop people's heads off.
Yes.
All day long.
Oh, damn.
Officially, though, I'm not sure.
30 million just for not.
They do.
Since we are talking about the
Party.
left and right of today, we should consider, China and other. So
Seems to be enforced today. Yeah.
So
technically speaking, China isn't left. They practice state capitalism.
Yeah.
State-controlled capitalism, correct.
Yeah.
They're a little bit
with
of everything,
state-controlled
kind of.
social as well, though.
They're very capitalist. They're mixed. They're a mixture of a lot of things.
Okay, so should we just leave the death penalty out as a divide?
I don't think it's a top. It's not been a as far as like political platforms go today. Like as far as political platforms go today, what people run on in their campaign platforms, that's not really the top. It's usually like you could look at the political platforms federally, look at left, right, and see like what arguments on each side, and that would give you an idea. At least in recent years, like it's usually like education, loans, wars, and abortion, gun control. Those are the identity ones, and then also like reparations might be in there too.
Okay, let's talk about one of the big ones. Immigration. Are there any statements we can generally make about the left and right with regards to immigration?
The left is more sympathetic to immigration. The right is not.
Just today, there's a news story that Kamala Harris came out and told immigrants not to come to America.
So there are certain socialistic parties in at least Europe who oppose the EU and immigration as a whole. So it doesn't have to be, but usually it's more right leaning. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, usually in more recent years.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm putting my answer on the US. Is that what we're doing? Not
we're talking about the left and right of today, kind of internationally. So
Western world.
Yeah, we want to kind of.
So I think in general, Travis, it's probably, especially if you talk internationally, that the left is more receptive to larger amounts of immigration. Especially when you're talking about
I think so.
Especially when you're talking about refugees and not necessarily migrant workers.
So can we say strongly legislated immigration policies on the right?
Yeah, I think the right. You could say stronger control of state borders.
Yeah, generally stricter control on borders.
Hmm.
I don't know about that. They more
Do you
about
think
immigration.
do you think it's stricter, or is it more like, because we don't want to strawman the left side of the political aisle by saying, they want to go play loose and fast with immigration, right? Or is that
no,
is
but
that what we
there's
think
like
it is, right?
moderates probably don't.
Yeah, moderates don't. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in political office now are largely centrist.
Yeah, center left or center right
federal
moderates.
office.
Yeah.
Federal
So,
office.
like John McCain, for example, was pro amnesty.
Yeah, he was.
That's a good point, actually.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So John McCain basically said, yeah, if you came here in the last 20 years, we'll go ahead and give you citizenship. You live here, you're paying taxes.
I think we should
go
just
ahead.
throw it out from the left
Pro
right
amnesty.
paradigm. I think it hinges on many other things, which is like
right
authoritarian economy versus not. And
it is, but like it is definitely a platform that is definitely a part of the political platform as far as the federal elections go.
Oh, definitely. Like isn't it rated like second highest of importance?
Pretty high. It's
like
also pretty high on any border state in the South, especially. I mean, probably the North, but more in the South, like Arizona and Texas. Those are big issues for the politicians that run there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I love about this? I think by the end of this this portion, it's going to show like how close to kissing lips both sides of the political spectrum actually are.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a bell curve.
Yeah.
And there's
two sides of the same coin, man.
The irony is that it's the politics of the right through capitalism that fuels the demand for immigration as cheap labor, which I find is quite odd. Capitalism and its freedom through right-wing politics, not far-right, right-wing politics.
Me and Bruce had this.
And libertarians, are a lot of them were pro open border.
I'd like to ask Chris.
No state, therefore no borders.
You guys, I'd like to ask.
Well, because with a free market.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to ask Chris Kafka. What is an item that we can add to the left side of the political spectrum here? Kind of a short statement that most people who consider themselves left would agree on. So far, we have abolished social hierarchies, more gun control. What else can we add?
We have just those two.
Say that again.
Sorry, we have just those two right now.
Yeah, just those two.
My apologies, I'm driving, so
no worries.
Maybe try.
And we can also add one to the right if you have a suggestion. We so far have agreed on to conserve the status quo, maintaining the social hierarchies, and promoting gun ownership.
Texas, perhaps. Higher taxes.
Higher or lower taxes.
Yeah. So, should we say, are we? And we'll come back to you, Chris, so you have a second to think about it. But with regards,
definitely.
With regards to taxes,
I think abortion's on that list, man.
Oh yeah, we'll get to abortion, but taxes. How can we word this in a way that is as true as we can be to the general attitudes of each side? We like
in favor of tax cuts and against tax cuts. I mean, that's typically.
Or how about, isn't it more like we are okay with more taxes to fund social policy, to fund social programs? Generally, no, because then we're getting to the social programs.
Is what we would call it.
Here, I'll let you.
That's a word that would be used. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hear some tax statements that you guys think we can add to the list here.
So, so progressive tax policies. The rich don't pay their fair share.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
okay.
I think
so actually, the good would be higher taxes on the rich or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That one's really good, I think. And Don, anyone who considers themselves on the left side of the political aisle, what do you think of that one? The rich must pay more taxes.
Yeah, I would agree, since the left wants to abolish hierarchies in general, want to make them go away. So the rich staying richer, in order to equalize it, they would want to raise taxes using the levers of the government. So I think it hinges back on that. So
that's a good statement. The rich must pay more taxes.
You just say should pay their fair share. I think that's
whatever that is. Whatever that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever fair share means.
Oh, yeah. Can we improve
a percentage? It means percentage.
Can we improve that?
I would say fair distribution of resources, to go really broad, and that accommodates a wide variety of left-wing systems.
I think that's a good idea. That's
distribution of resources.
A fair distribution. A fair distribution.
I think you could call it central planning.
How about equal?
To each according to his need, from each according to his ability.
Would you agree with that, Don? Would you agree with an equal distribution of resources, or a fair distribution of resources?
I would say fair, because the
equal wouldn't work. You'd want equity, so that would mean fair. So all the outcomes were the same. Equal would not be
right.
Egalitarian.
Okay, a fair distribution.
But we're smuggling equity into left-wing thought. And
we are
always
So
equity will only be necessary so long as it equalizes an unjust hierarchy.
Well, okay.
I'm not happy.
Fairness would make more sense, right? Not equal.
Well, I'm not happy with fairness, because fairness is like, some people are going to think,
what standard?
Keeping $10,000 is fair. The other person will think keeping $5,000 is fair.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to improve on fair here. A fair distribution of resources isn't going to cut it.
How about a just distribution of resources?
Could we use the term a progressive distribution of resources?
I don't think so.
Controlled distribution of resources.
Centrally
controlled.
Centrally controlled. Yeah.
How about equality of opportunity instead of fair?
That's a right statement. That's not a left statement.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's both. But a controlled distribution of resources. Okay, yeah, because I think on the right side in general, on the right side, they're not going to want that control, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
Right. Yeah.
Smaller hierarchies.
Unless you
smaller
get
governments.
Far right. We get far right, and it's about identity and populism based in group, then they're okay. You know what I mean?
But we would probably,
and that ends up becoming
those.
So when you say in group, Bruce.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a divide in group preference versus out group preference?
Yeah, definitely.
The left versus
and
the
left
group,
versus
the right.
Yeah, and then the defining group. Yeah, the defining group would be differentiating between maybe some of the sides of the aisle, or how they would define that. But there's some preference based in identity or location or whatever the attribute might be, as to who is in the in-group.
Okay.
The simple one is race or nationality. That would be the simple one. But I mean, it's just the most loaded one too.
Okay. Now, how about a controlled distribution of resources.
I couldn't agree with that as far as controlled distribution of resources on the right. And I guess here's why.
No, that's on the left.
So when you had
sorry,
on the left.
Oh, on the left.
It'd be on the left. Yeah.
Could you say a central instead of a controlled?
Like
central planning ideology?
Distribution of resources controlled by central power, right?
Well, not necessarily, because if you're looking at, let's say, like anarchists, which would be on the left,
far left, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
so
there's
anarcho-capitalists that are on the right.
Although, guys, we don't want to focus too much on the fringes. We're trying to get kind of a way that a general
Moderates.
Political party on the left or the right might find the best way to speak to the most people that they can within their voting constituency. So that's kind of what we're looking for in these statements, even though like some of those outliers might disagree with a controlled distribution of resources. Are they going to disagree enough to not call themselves or that statement a left-leaning statement?
Yeah.
So, Pangburn, can I ask you something?
Yep.
Yeah, real quick, why exactly is this the avenue that we're taking as opposed to actually looking at like a historical view or giving historical evidences?
Because I'm interested in what people think and why.
Okay, so just what people feel, like what they think?
That's where we are right now.
Okay, so I got you. So this isn't a historical argument necessarily. That makes sense.
We haven't even started looking at historical precedent yet.
Well,
we've pulled up some polling.
He's just nailing down the differences between the two parties generally.
Right. So this isn't nailing down differences between two left and right. This is just defining it as we would in the way that you guys define it now. That makes sense.
Today, yes. And semantics aside, we don't need to have that semantic argument anymore. It's how it currently is.
This is entirely a semantic argument because we're defining the terms not based on historical precedents. It's off what we're feeling right now. No, it literally is a semantic argument, though.
No, what I'm trying to say is it removes the semantic argument later when you have the topic of discussion because the terms have already been defined.
Right. And Chad, if you disagree with one of these things that is being agreed upon, voice your reasoning.
Oh yeah, I definitely will as soon as I am able to in a more long form session, which will be here in about 45 minutes. But
right.
I kind of disagree with the entire foundation of this so far, but I'll hold my peace until later. So
Chad, think of it like this. It's like a group of guys, Monday Night Football. They're sitting down, they're talking about the football game. Then you come in and you start talking about the history of football. Right. And you're getting very technical about the referee, and it's not really like helping.
No, not at all. When we predefine these terms and arbitrarily set the definitions, that can be useful.
It's not arbitrary,
I can see how that takes...
Chad. There's nothing arbitrary going on here. Nope. We're trying to simplify the language on how people
to be negative at all. That is literally just I guess a definitional thing. So I'll redact that and say this is a defining as of now, and then we're using these definitions later, right?
Yeah, and I've stated such multiple times, dude.
I know,
and we've had to come back to drag you along. I want you to buy. No. I want you to buy into this process instead of trying to find a problem with it because you think it's going to be used against your view of Nazism when we get to it. That sounds like
it's
what's coming
definitely
up.
not.
There's definitely going to be some aspects.
I promise you, it's not going to be something that I'm afraid of confronting. But I don't think I'm the only one in the room right now, based on a couple other people who have said so, that agree, with the fact that this is a kind of an odd way of going about the conversation. But
he's just saying the as of now and the present is different than the past.
Yeah, we're talking about our perceptions of the left and the right now, and people have been pulling up resources as we've been going along, and we've looked at some polling research and some different things. And if again, this is an open discussion, and if you want to disagree with one of these things we are putting on the left side or the right side of the political column, then say so.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I've stated my point, but Chris was saying something.
Go ahead, Chris.
Perspectives changes over time, and we are in
Chris was saying something?
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I've existed in on the extreme right of the kind of. Anyway, I'm in middle of America, and I would say I disagree with most of these statements. And this isn't fringe. I mean, this is most people I know, and I want to kind of talk about I want to kind of talk about whose perspective are we talking from? Are we talking about our own personal perspectives. What is the left? What is the right?
No,
are we talking about the people around us? Like
we're talking about what is going on.
Show?
We're talking about what is going on in reality with regards to what left means politically and what right means politically. And you can use any resources you wish to make your arguments as to why one of these statements ought not be used on the left or the right.
I think my biggest qualm is that I think we're injecting a lot of libertarian, authoritarian spectrum dichotomies that are inside these things like higher taxes, gun control. I feel like these are things that can flip-flop within generations depending on the context.
Yeah, and I haven't said otherwise, guys. We are dealing with. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, I was just saying, I feel like Travis is trying to get to like when people say these things today in 2021, this is what they are meaning. Am I wrong on that? Like that's
well, I'm trying to simplify the meaning and get away from these common platitudinous political statements that people who have political conversations tend to throw out there, and they're so cloaked in subjectivity that everyone will begin by disagreeing on what is the prime meaning of whatever political label they're using. And when we get down to looking at the left, if we it sounds like, okay, and look, no one's disagreed so far. Is someone willing to disagree that more gun control doesn't belong on the left in general?
I do.
Yeah, I disagree.
I would as well. Every person here has said that a couple times now.
No, they haven't. What are you talking about, Chad?
Leftists in like my area, and that's not like being within a community. It's like I know so few people that are anti-gun, and that might be a middle of America thing, like living in middle of Missouri. Like everyone has guns.
Living in the middle of Missouri is the middle
let
of
her finish this. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, like, people that are on the left are like, we need to arm the working class. We need to, people that are disenfranchised should be able to protect themselves. Women should be able to protect themselves. People of color should be able to protect themselves against police forces, against government, whatever it might be, against just people that want to harm them.
Yep. Yeah, so that's that's not dealing with the more gun control, Chris. That's not dealing with
that's
it.
No, there is no. They're like gun control is like a thing that should not be happening on the left. I mean, I don't know any leftist that is. I don't know. Well, I guess it depends. What do you mean by gun control? Do you mean like common
gun control? We're not talking about owning guns necessarily. Like we're talking about policies that may make it more difficult for some kind of nutcase to get a hold of a gun. The left tends to be promoting that on their political platforms, right?
Yeah, the Democrats in America, whether they're in a red state like Missouri or a blue state like California, tend to have a platform that says you don't need AR-15s for hunting.
Yeah.
The foundation of this problem has nothing to do with the left and right divide. It has everything to do with authoritarian versus libertarian, and that's where we take issue.
No, that's an obfuscation. Let's go back to this again.
Whatever you say.
Let's go back to this again. Let me talk to you. Let me explain this again. Do you think it's a general principle? Let's look at the United States alone first. Do you think it's a general principle that the left side of the political aisle thinks that more gun control and making it harder for bad people to get their hands on guns through legislation is a good idea?
I'm telling you right now what I've said. I have agreed in general. If that is the way that we are framing it, yes, I've said that. Now,
simplify your language, dude. You just said a whole lot of nothing, Chad. Respond.
just
respond.
said yes.
No. Okay, yeah. You should have said yes because I asked you the question instead of like spinning a web. Just answer the question.
So then, direct question to you: how would I best, I guess, go against the framing of the question? How would I best ask you to clarify?
You can no. You can say, instead of saying it in this way, like more gun control, let's say it in this way. But I just want to have a working statement that we can all agree on with regards to gun control on the left, with regards to the whole idea that's always whenever there's a big shooting in the United States, what do the left-leaning politicians have to say about it, and what do people who call themselves on the left side of the political spectrum, what do they have to say about it?
It depends how you define left wing.
10 years ago, I'd agree with you. 10 to 8 years ago, like 8 to 10 years ago, yes, I was, I think, a big platform, but I don't see it a lot in the news recently. I think things changed a lot with George Floyd. I mean, you have a lot of different disenfranchised groups that openly march, with guns to try and, I guess, break some of those perceptions. It's people are very silent. Bernie Sanders, for instance, has not talked a lot about gun control by any means, even like common sense gun laws. I mean, he may stand behind them, but I think a lot of people on the right stand behind common sense gun laws. They stand by background checks. You hear people on the right say, it's not the guns, it's mentally ill. We need to take care and block the mentally ill. So people on both sides are talking about common sense gun laws. And then, I don't know, that's kind of what I would say about it.
Yeah, I would say that I've yet to hear. I would say on the heels of the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, I have yet to hear people say that people are justified with unfettered access to firearms on the left ever. Period. But I always hear that on the right.
But the background check's harder on the bigger.
They said that firearms and arming children and arming all of these people should actually be, supported. So again, this is you're speaking from a position that you don't personally agree with. So I get what you're trying to build, and I'm trying to foster the understanding that is not a left or right issue. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but that's like getting into discussions around left-right ideology. We're talking about what currently is in the political candidates, right? Like, aren't we?
So let me just read to you the platform of Biden-Harris, the Democrats.
There you go.
Look up
Would it be more effective to actually
no, Chad, don't interrupt Doolittle. Let him go.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna read to you the highlighted first words in the paragraph of Joe Biden / Kamala Harris's gun platform. They are the current leaders, front leaders of the left.
That's not true, but okay.
At the moment.
Not the left.
That's not the left.
See, this is where we're getting into No True Scott.
Yeah, they're not the left.
They're not left enough. Okay, so here's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are the president and vice president of the United States, and the party which sits on the left side of the aisle in the House of the so-called left side of the aisle, which is the historical definition of left and right. So 1, hold gun manufacturers accountable. I'm not going to read all the paragraphs. 2, get weapons of war off our streets. Ban the manufacture and sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Regulate possession of existing assault weapons under the National Firearms Act. Buy back assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Reduce stockpiling of weapons. Keep guns out of dangerous hands. Require background check for all gun sales. Close other loopholes in the federal background check system. Reinstate the Obama policy to keep guns out of the hands of certain people unable to manage their affairs for mental reasons. Close the hate crime loophole. That's an interesting one. Close the Charleston loophole. I don't know what that was. Close the fugitive from justice loophole. End the online sale of firearms. Create an effective program to ensure individuals who become prohibited from possessing firearms will relinquish their weapons. Incentivize state extreme risk laws. Give states incentives to set up gun licensing programs. Adequately fund the background check system. So that's the platform in a nutshell. every single one of those planks in the platform is to make it more difficult to obtain and retain weapons.
Yep.
And then my
Well, we're
so my
no, go ahead.
Now,
and my follow up to that is: do you guys think, and we can throw this to the whole room, do you guys think that those policies are attempting to mirror the left voting constituency, the left leaning voting constituency? Are they attempting to appease that constituency?
I would say no, and I have repeated that.
They're not attempting to appeal to that left leaning voting constituency.
They are not appealing to left-leaning voting constituency.
What do you think, Don?
I think the difficulty here is that I can't call Democrats like those who espouse leftist ideas. Democrats within themselves also have conservative ideas.
Yes, I'm not saying that.
So the Democratic Party in the United States currently and its voting bloc want gun control.
Yeah. So that's not my question though.
And that's where the rubber meets the road in the conversation here, because when people say left in the political conversations, or when people say right in the political conversations, that's what they're saying.
Who are they is the question, because none of the people that I interact with on a wide basis say that, other than people, I guess, that have your point of view. So there are a select few.
Good point, Chad.
Not everybody that's here, and
Hang on,
that's specifically what I am fighting against.
I'd like to ask this question again.
You're saying that I'm strawmanning the position of left-right when you call to man on the street anywhere in the United States?
I'm specifically saying that you are not understanding what a leftist is, or you do not understand the left. So I'm not saying you're strawmanning. I don't think you're trying malicious.
I'm not saying that. I am saying when people say left today on the street, at the coffee shop, and they're of voting age from 18 to 99, people are not educated, nuanced enough in poli-sci and the historical facts of left and right. Left is the Dems right now. Right?
No. When Steven Crowder is talking to Steven Crowder's audience, the left is the people that wrote
I feel like I'm taking crazy
platform on
pills.
gun control.
I'm like taking crazy pills now?
Okay, hang on. Just let me... Chris, you had something to say?
The only person that I know that is incredibly uncomfortable with guns and feels that like guns should be regulated in my life is my evangelical Christian mother. She's the sweetest woman.
Okay.
She's one of those pro-life all across the board, is against abortion, is against the death penalty, and is against guns as well. She voted for Trump in 2016. And I'm pretty sure she voted third party libertarian.
Chris, there's going to be examples of this, of all of us who know different people in our lives, but I don't want to move away from this right now, because if we have people in the room that can't agree that the policies that Dr. Doolittle just read out, that the attempt by the Democrats in this case is to appeal to a certain voting constituency that we would call left leaning as opposed to right leaning, then we have a big problem here.
I can pull it for you, like Mike Pence's statements. I mean, there are less, or about half of them, so he's more silent on it. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that was just read off, I mean, are by very Republicans. They agree on. So I mean, there's a lot of overlap in all of those statements. These aren't exclusively Democrats.
I'm not. I didn't ask
left.
Guys, I did not say anything about whether. I'm talking about the people who wrote them. Do you think that they wrote them with policies with ideas of what right-wing constituents want generally with regards to gun laws for the country? Or do you think that they were thinking more generally about what the left, political left, wants? Like, because you understand that the political right in general are going to want a few different things than the political left. And what I'm trying to discover are what are those few different things that's going to separate those two sides of the political aisle.
You have to define right and left, though.
This is what we're trying to do, Mace.
I agree with Mace here. This is not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, so this is what I was thinking earlier, is I think we're going to struggle just because we're pulling in so many people in this chat from so many different regions across the world. And, you know, there are different, guns have been normalized in different ways. In America, it's very, very normalized. I mean, you know, get a gun for your 10th birthday. Get a gun for free whenever you buy a car. No joke. You know, it's gonna be different. What is center of left and right? So I think that particular line is going to be difficult unless we get like more specific, or we get off of just like a single, you know, dot point line.
You guys.
So does that mean basically we should?
This is getting very frustrating.
So should we then scrap what we've been talking about for the last 15 minutes and then start from scratch and first define left and right? Do you want to do that, or do you think that's overkill?
I think you guys are having a discussion about what are the political parties in America called again? Republican and the other one.
Democrats, yes.
We currently
about Republican versus Democrat rather than left versus right, because that's not the same thing.
No, that we're not going to take the easy way out and run away from the left and right labels that are constantly used to reference where someone's political leanings are.
Incorrectly, though.
That's what we're trying to sort out today, man. We're not gonna fucking run away from it.
What Mace is talking about is power dynamics in one versus the
I'm
other.
talking about language. The way a word is defined and the way it's used are not always the same. Most people use the words left and right incorrectly.
Yes, Mace. That's fine.
That's what
we're trying to. That's what we're trying to work on right now. What are some left-leaning statements that can be made about generally what people feel on the left versus generally what people feel on the right today?
Travis.
And we got to just wait, and we got to abolishing social hierarchies. Does anyone want to disagree with that now? We got to that on the left. Okay.
I disagree.
Mace, go ahead.
Well, isn't what's it called? What's that oppression thing again? Intersectionality. Isn't intersectionality literally a hierarchy of oppression?
No.
Oh, no, not intersectionality again.
Mace, when you mentioned Democrat versus Republican, that's power dynamic.
So Mace, that might be something you would argue, but do you think that the left wishes, even though you think that it might not be possible, but do you think it wishes to abolish social hierarchies? Don agreed. I think Chad agreed. Chad, did you agree?
I would say yes, the way we clarified it.
Right. So it's not about going through point by point and trying to talk about the ought aspect of it. We're just trying to get some of these statements clear. So,
can I say one thing?
Yeah, I'm just going to fill up my water.
Equality of opportunity, level playing field. Doesn't that create a hierarchy?
Bro, not now. Hold on.
Okay.
Yes, please.
I would like
Let
to
us get back on
suggest
topic.
something.
Can I
suggest something?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Maybe we need a methodology to figure this out. And I'm thinking maybe we could, there's different usages of right and left. So in America we have one idea of what it is, and then in UK I believe there's different meaning of right and left. And so I guess are we talking about the right and left in the way we use it in the US, or
we're trying to find so just let me clarify. We're trying to find some ideas that are actually universal on left and right if we can.
I think the left and right are used differently in Europe and in America. Like they're opposites, I believe.
Sure.
Pretty much opposite.
And maybe we will discover
policies.
Maybe we will
Sorry.
Hang on, Mace.
No, you can go.
Maybe we will discover that there are no uniting statements or ideas or policies that we can find that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, I raised my hand. I think that by narrowing it to the view of today and not taking into account history and how that may inform the decision of like the way they sat in France and the way the tradition have been of what is meant by left versus right, I think we're doing it a disservice by conflating Democrats and Republicans in the American stand view and looking at Europe, which is generally much more to the left than the U.S., but the definitions aren't flipped. Right. Nothing has been.
Yeah, we're not. You guys, the application of how this will apply to the Nazi conversation, we haven't even got there yet.
Oh, I even forgot about the Nazi conversation.
Yeah.
I just forgot about it.
But so Don, let's deal with the actual issue in the room here. Tell me how is, or let me ask you this straight up: is the Democratic Party the best representation of, let's say, the left in the United States?
No.
Okay.
No.
Now, what would be what would be the party that best represents the left?
The American Communist Party.
To extremes, maybe. I would say that yes, I would agree with the American Communist Party more than
the Democratic Socialists of America is what they call it.
That is on the left as well. Yes,
I would say it would be I would say it's a thing that is in common between the DSA, the communists, the tankies, the libertarian socialists. Like that thing that is in common with all of them. That's the thing that defines the left, and that has historically and academically been left.
But I'm but so there was a lot of people talking. So what political group would be the best representative, do you think, Don, of what the left is?
Honestly, I don't know.
So I would make an argument. The U.S. is pretty insane right now. I think the right's getting split into probably two different parties. I mean, you have the ones that are still following Trump that think, Pence has abandoned Trump, and like they were the ones that went in and raided the Capitol, and now they can't trust the elite Republicans and blah, 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 blah. So right's gotten split. That's probably going to go into two different parties. I mean, more traditional conservatives. A lot of them voted Biden. Biden was like essentially the uniter. Nobody wanted Biden, and a lot of people voted for him just to get things back to status quo. So I would say Biden is very much for everyone, right, left. Things have gotten so extreme for everyone just because social media and division overall. Biden is just a lukewarm left, but everyone on all sides picked. And this is getting input.
I mean, Chris, there is a lot of disdain for Biden, though, right, in the United States. Do you not think that?
Oh, hello.
Yeah. We were getting some buzzing from you. Oh yeah, Chris. I was just following up by asking you, don't you think there's a lot of disdain for Joe Biden though in the United States? Like, aren't most of the like the people who did vote Trump, which was a significant amount of people, do you think that they would generally have disdain for Biden?
Disdain's an odd word. I think a lot of people that voted for Trump had disdain for Trump as well. So I mean, I exist in both spaces. You know, I grew up in, you know, very, very, very conservative, like evangelical Christianity, which should be, you know, the ideal Trump voter. I mean, a lot of them, you know, there's a lot of like woo disdain for Biden, you know, that he is a scary elite that is, you know, draining the adrenal glands of children, more or less. So I guess yes, but for most people, they're just like, this is what we have to do to get the country back in order, is what I see. So it's not necessarily a disdain. It's like they begrudgingly voted for him for the most part. Both Republicans and Democrats, quote unquote. It's changed. I mean, in the past 4 years, everything's changed.
Okay, so who would be the best representative of in the United States currently right now of what it means to be left or a leftist? Is Joe Biden that and his policies, or is it someone else? Like who? What group?
I'd say AOC.
No.
Bernie.
She's more to the left of Biden.
But
she is more to. So I tell you what, guys. Would it be more effective? And Pangburn, tell me what you think as well. Would it be more effective for some of us to give a definition of the left and the right, and then see, like, go around the room and see if everyone can agree on it?
Kind of what we did.
We're trying to work through that, Chad. Like I've asked you and you know, everyone in the room to give me some attributes that you think are left and attributes that you think are right. So this is what we've been doing.
Which is policy as well, which isn't attributes.
It's everything. Policy, it's everything. I've asked for everything.
Can I give? What do you guys think?
Well, hang on, Chad, hang on.
I told him equality of
opportunity. Chad.
Hang on, Nivik. Chad, I want you to acknowledge that we were doing that.
You were not doing that. I can't acknowledge that.
Yes, I answered this question.
Yes, I was, Chad. Look, Chad, you're trying.
That was the first hour of this conversation, Chad. You weren't here. That's why you didn't see it.
I have been here for quite a while.
So I've been asking. So Chad, when I ask for attributes and things that were put, you've been here for the conversation, asking for what you would consider to be on the left with regards to ideas or policies or whatever, and then also on the right. What do you have to offer for that?
So we
That's
started
not how
off
definitions work.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I'm saying.
I'm not.
We're
extrapolate from your definition and give us some things for our list that we're building. Can you?
Yeah.
Not do
So
that?
the definitions that we're trying to establish right now got mired by policy. Originally, we had said we had talked to the left's propensity to, you know, support egalitarian policy and the equalization or abolishment of social hierarchy. That is a general term that we can apply to an ideology, right?
That was my answer when you asked me.
Yeah, we've already got that one. And
everybody in the room, can we agree that is a philosophical / ideological position that we can agree on, right?
Right. That's what wasn't, the egalitarianism wasn't agreed on, but the
what we agreed on was abolishing social hierarchies. If you're looking to say what your general definition is, that's not what we're doing today. What we're doing is we're trying to find the finer details of exactly what it means to hold a leftist view versus a right view. And then we're going to look through history to see where that might have changed. And then we are going to look at the Nazi Party and Nazism to see if we can see any crossovers or similarities between these two different attitudes.
Right. So if we are, like I said, not defining left versus right, that completely changes the conversation.
I thought we
If
were.
you are trying to apply specific policy,
Well, we're
institutions to get a
investigating
general idea.
We may be able to
Go
pull
ahead.
a definition out of this model that we built, but I'm interested in actually understanding the finer details, not just a standard definition of what it means to be left.
Okay.
That
Because-
definition is. Oh, go ahead.
Because that's not going to get us anywhere. To if you say a definition and someone's like, oh, I disagree with that definition, we're going to have a conversation about definitions. I want to talk about the specific things that are informing your definition that you have in your mind, Chad.
I'm telling you right now, if you're trying to separate the definition for whatever we're doing with,
Chad?
whatever we're dealing with,
Chad,
from the policy yeah, what?
You're obfuscating.
This is not obfuscation.
Yeah, yes, it is, dude. It's just it's pure
very
and
clearly not,
utter. We can go back and look at the tape, brother, but it's pure obfuscation.
I promise you, it's not.
You're not
okay.
You're not following the structure I've set up here. What you're trying to do is change the structure. You're not playing the game.
Obfuscation.
What was that, Bruce?
Obfuscation.
Oh.
Yeah, we need to define obfuscation.
Throwing in irrelevant information
I'm
either
kidding,
change
of
this.
Obfuscation is when you ask someone to define something.
Yeah,
when
I
they're
know, I'm
talking
kidding.
about defining something.
That's that we are not defining something.
So
Chad,
let's
why don't you
continue,
render you,
guys.
right?
You guys, let's continue with the investigation into what it means to be left and what it means to be right. Does anyone?
I just want to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's Chad
Go ahead,
proposing
Don.
then?
I just want to say that let's say we disagree with the format or we think that this form of inquiry isn't the best. Let's go with what Pangburn has set up. Let's move with it. And if we have issues with it later, after this is all done, we can write about it and keep talking about it and maybe make another video to come back.
Sure.
But right now,
I
let's just
agree.
go with
I will
what
be
Pangburn
writing a
wants to
blog
do.
about this, not
Let
my
him
work.
take the lead and just move on with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it is the place that he set up, and we've all volunteered to be here, so it would make more sense to play by the rules set forth.
Right.
Sure.
Nobody's adding
and there is a method.
No one's adding anything.
And there is a method to my madness that may not seem clear at this very moment.
No, okay. All right. So yeah, if we're doing that, sure.
So I'd be interested to hear from you, Chad, because you do have a working definition in your mind. Some of the things that would fall under that definition that would be applied to what you think the left is. And we've got so far abolishing social hierarchies. We don't have to use more gun control if someone can give an argument as to why we shouldn't use it. A controlled distribution of resources. What are some other ideas?
So again, I disagree with those, but for me specifically, the left supports social equality, egalitarianism, and the opposition of social hierarchy.
Okay.
That is my full definition.
So social equality. What was the second one?
Egalitarianism.
Okay.
So
In
what
opposition
does
to hierarchy.
social equality mean?
Because
We already had the other ones.
Yeah. Because what we will want to look at is whether social equality would also be applied on the right.
Well, egalitarianism is definitely applied on the right.
Right.
I would say the abolishment of exploitation.
Okay.
Yep.
I think
That's a good one. No, that's a good one.
Can you repeat that?
The abolishment of exploitation, right?
Yeah.
That is correct.
And that's and that would be for the left, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So social.
Yeah, so the right would be get whatever you can out of the deal that you can make, and the Sorry, the
Yeah, so
rate would be
corporate
get whatever
mentality.
you can, get whatever you can out of the deal you can make.
So cap.
Whatever you can negotiate, is just.
Okay.
And then the left would be taking more than you deserve in the negotiation is unjust.
No.
So
That's more of an economic argument, I guess.
So on the right, so I wanna clarify, Doolittle. Whatever you can legally negotiate.
Then you deserve it. Yeah.
Okay.
That brings in market economics.
Is rightfully yours. So whatever you can legally negotiate is rightfully yours. Where on the left, you would have people say, "Well, if you've legally negotiated a whole pile of wealth, some of that should be taxed."
Yeah. Or some of it should go to the people that made that pile.
Or anything.
Redistribution.
Well, I would say here's where the exploitation part comes in. So let's say that you have someone that is vulnerable. They are handicapped in whatever way. So I would argue the right would say, okay, if this person, signs a deal, even if it's under duress, even if they don't know all their options because we've hidden it from them, even if you are scamming them, then you have the right to it. Do you think that you should have that? I guess I would say the left would say no. Protection should be in place for those people. So because
you're just
exploitation is too easy.
You just threw a fraud on the right.
Unless the right is in a position of being exploited, then you have the person change their tune.
Okay. So what was the final question you were trying to get an answer to, Chris, and how does it applying to one of the what statement is it applying to?
So I guess you were talking about somebody acquires mass amounts of wealth. I think the left assumption is they can only do that by exploitation, and so that they do not deserve it. I mean, and I would say the right sentiment is if you acquired it, you acquired it.
Yeah, and we have abolishment,
unfettered capitalism.
Yeah, so on the left we already have abolishment of exploitation, and on the right we have whatever you can legally negotiate is rightfully yours.
I don't agree with that definition. At least I don't think so.
Which one?
I think
it's not a definition, right? It's just
with the attribute.
Attribute. Yeah.
To say that the left are in favor of abolishing exploitation, the right isn't. I don't think that's correct because
I agree.
They argue about what is exploitation. So everyone agrees that exploitation is not good. The question is, what do you call exploitation and what don't you? And the argument really is how much taxes we should be placing on the rich. The right. It's not like everybody's paying 25%.
Yeah. Exploitation is the wrong word here. We need to find the differentiation between the left and right on that issue.
So the left. So here, let me help. The left believes that let's just say that everything that is created by the workers that created it, right? And let's just this is hard to frame without saying something that's just blatantly out of the definition of socialism. But the left, it's really hard to do. The left, I think, has more of a tendency to say that.
Maybe greed will work here.
Greed,
like greed, because the right, because the right. Okay, so the abolishment of greed. Now the right would be like someone should be able to be greedy if they want to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll use
who gets credited? Here's a question: who gets credited for a beautiful building? Is it the architect or the builders?
Guys, a broader way to define it would be, to define this attribute would be, the left is more in favor of a higher degree of distribution.
Yeah.
No. I think that's a.
hang on.
Theory of value.
I don't think that's.
Theory of value.
I think we sorted out distribution with a controlled distribution of resources. We didn't go with equal distribution because no one on the left is saying that, like, if someone amasses $1 billion, that should all be split up equally between everyone, right?
It's more about opportunity.
So
quality opportunity.
so we said a controlled distribution of resources.
But they're in favor of a higher degree of
more distribution to the people that did, let's just say, something like manual labor, which might be readily available as opposed to scarce, and the right would put more value on something that's scarce.
Right. So we could
even though that there's a human that did something that's scarce and there's a human that did something that's not scarce, and someone on the right would say the human that can do something that's scarce is worth more, or their work is worth more than the human on the left that did something that's not scarce.
The rarity of their work
but
experience.
the upward mobility in people moving upward, and be in doing good. That's more on the left.
No.
Because
if you abolish the hierarchy, there's no up.
Yeah, it's a holarchy then.
Holarchy.
Does anybody disagree with the way I explained it? That the left is more in favor of a higher degree of distribution. Chad disagrees. Can you explain why?
Oh,
yeah, I do disagree, but I got to figure out my mic. I sound like shit right now. 1 second.
But I think the reason that's what I was trying to point out, Swaxy, that we agreed on a controlled distribution of resources, and obviously the controlled aspect would have to be sorted out to what that means, but the right would disagree about that control in general.
Right. So everyone agrees to distribution. The question is to what degree, and I think the left generally wants a higher degree of redistribution. I think that's
that's why we put in controlled though as that differentiation. Because the right in general wouldn't want control on that, any kind of control. They just want to, whatever you can legally negotiate is rightfully yours. And then on the other side, on the left, they generally want some control so that it doesn't get out of hand. Where one guy,
minimum wage, for
fairness
example,
is fairness is a big part.
The right wants taxes, and redistribution. So I don't know what you mean that.
No, they don't. No.
The right doesn't want taxes.
Well,
the right doesn't. The right agrees to higher taxes for the rich, for the most part, not to the same degree as the left does in America. Then how come the whole right doesn't push for an equal tax, a flat tax rate? It's not
like
one
the
of the
555 plan. You mean like that? Like what was that guy's name? Herman Cain. Like Herman Cain, the 555 plan. Everybody pays the same tax rate.
Yeah, that's not like the mainstream. That's not what Trump was pushing for. That's not what the right is pushing for. That's not what the mainstream politicians are pushing for.
Trump pushed for a lower top end marginal tax rate, which is
exactly lower.
Correct.
That's the point, but not flat. So I'm saying my point is to show that the right is also
he's a pragmatist that can't achieve a flat tax.
If they were not for redistribution, if they were not for redistribution, then the right would vote for flat tax rate, and that would be the selling point for the right. But I don't think that's the mainstream point. I mean, ideology. Some candidates, they want the flat rate, but it's not. That's not the right's. It's not on their bulletin board.
So Swaxy, we haven't made any statements in our list yet about taxation. What is it? What is a statement on either the left or right about taxation that you think is sound to make?
So I think this is the same point about. I think taxes has to do with redistribution.
Okay, so
right
except we've already
a lower level of redistribution than the left does.
Yeah, so we've already dealt with the distribution thing, but I'm interested in the tax, and specifically with regards to taxes.
Yeah, but I don't think that everyone agreed on. We came to a conclusion on the redistribution. I think we're still unclear. People are saying that the right doesn't is not for redistribution. I don't think that's true at all.
Okay, well, let's open up this item again. On the left, a controlled distribution of resources. Who all disagrees with that?
I could say centrally controlled, but
Centrally controlled.
Okay, centrally controlled is better.
No, it's wrong.
Just
it's
because,
very wrong
yeah.
because that's authoritarian as opposed to left.
Yeah.
Okay, so not centrally controlled then.
I mean, usually the left is associated with central planning, but I mean that's just a generality. Not all leftists are for more central planning.
Yeah, I think controlled is the best we can do so far. And Swaxy, you were arguing, how were you arguing that we would upgrade that?
I'm not sure what you mean by controlled. I think the difference is to what degree they want redistribution. Generally, the right wants lower degree of redistribution. They still want welfare programs, but maybe not to the same extent that the left does. So I think it's in the degree of redistribution.
Okay, but if we say higher or lower, that becomes quite subjective. Like we want to get
that's obviously is going to be missed.
We want to get to the fundamental thing of whether there should be control or not.
Yes.
So I don't think it's subjective. I think because when I say higher or lower, I mean relative to the other party. So it's always clear what we mean. The left one's higher relative to the other party, and so if you make a mean, just make any mean, or
yes,
then the left will be higher, and the right will be lower. If you're
making a statistic, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's fine.
I'm going to put my.
I agree with that.
Okay, good. I'm going to put my list up on YouTube just so everyone can see this working list, so we can reference it.
I will be home in about 20-something minutes, so I'll jump on the computer so I can see as well.
Okay, sweet.
Nice.
Now, and this list, guys, is not set in stone. It takes a few delete buttons to get something going here. I'm going to put this over the YouTube chat. There we go.
Yeah, the writer
I think it's a
about
good
having
thing
lower
to try to
taxes
understand it.
percentage.
Yeah, you guys, there's a reason why people do not put in this level of work and detail into trying to understand this, because it's fucking tough. And thank you for being patient. Now, what are some other things? Okay, abortion. Let's talk about abortion. We won't get into the abortion debate, but
Lord have mercy.
Can we agree and I'd like to get the general sense because it sounds like there's some disagreement of what left means with regards to, let's say, as the United States as an example, with Democrats, and right with regards to Republican. Where do we think the left would generally stand on abortion?
Well,
would
I
they
would
think
say that it's probably pro-choice mostly, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right, that would be a general.
It's against the government restriction of abortion.
It's against, yeah.
And,
Okay.
and if you go really far left, there's reproductive justice.
Okay, so
abortion
left.
plus.
So how did you state that, Chad? Against government.
It is against
restriction
of abortion. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
a good one.
Abortion. Okay. Does anyone disagree with that on the left column?
I would say semantically for the prohibition of. You said against government restriction of abortion, but
yes.
In terms of my general view of positive versus negative rights is that the government must ensure the right to an abortion.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that. You could also define it as the prohibition of killing a fetus or killing a young person. That's how you could define it. Some people would define it. Some people would argue.
Maybe too specific for our definitions, though.
Yeah. So against government, I'm going to share my screen with you guys.
Yeah. So to me, the right and the left, in a hard to explain way, is that the right is for natural rights and the left is for what you could call positive rights, that the government should ensure certain rights to individuals that don't exist. Like for example, the right to health care.
Yeah, like societal rights.
The left says, "Oh, hey, we're all better off with health care, and therefore the government should ensure."
Are we arguing about an overall philosophy of what ought to happen, or are we arguing about what the left thinks about abortion?
What's the left versus right?
Because the left thinks about abortion.
So the right,
I think we simplified it. Guys, just hang on. I just want to make sure we don't get into a debate on too much into the topic. Don, do you agree with the left would generally be against government restriction on abortion?
In the United States, yes.
Okay.
But now with the categorization of positive and negative rights, I disagree with that. I think many people on the right love Adam Smith. They believe in public education.
Right.
They believe in breaking up monopolies. I believe in all of that stuff, and that is definitely not negative rights. The right to an education is not a negative right. The right to public utilities is not a negative right, and people on the right love Adam Smith, and that's his big thing. So
yeah, agreed.
Okay, cool. Okay, and what would we on the right, when we're thinking about the right, would we want to make some kind of positive statement there? Pro absolute restriction on abortion, or is there a positive claim to be made or statement to be made on that side?
I think in general the right. I'll speak for everyone on the right here. I know it's, abortion should be generally unacceptable, except in a few rare circumstances. And exactly where you draw that line for the few rare circumstances.
Okay.
I was going to say, that's a leftist argument too, so it's not mutually exclusive.
Right.
But
No. I don't think there's a leftist argument that abortion should be unacceptable.
There is.
Can you? We'll actually, yeah. We might as well. We can open that up a little bit just to see if this statement stands. Are you getting at, Chad, that on the left we would find people who are definitely going to draw a hard line at some place with abortion, where a woman should not be able to have an abortion like a week before her original due date?
Yes, that is specifically what I'm saying. Yeah. There are definitely hard lines that, quote unquote, the left is totally okay with. The contention comes from where that line is drawn.
And I think Swexy hit right on the head, where he says if you consider life at the beginning, or if you consider an abortion, then even if you have left wing, you think in left leaning ways, you'll still reject that. I think the question is less of like a left right thing and much more to do with like epistemological or theological or even
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At what point does the soul enter the body? Right. So if you're Muslim, if you're a Muslim, then it's 9 months after birth.
Yeah.
And
so it might be
you can kill a baby.
That's a good point to make.
So it might be,
and Muslims are left wing in America.
So it might be hard to find a statement on the right for this, kind of equivalent to the left statement of against government restriction on abortion. I guess we could say pro government restriction on, but even like Chad, or anyone who considers themselves on the left, I mean, would the left not want restrictions against women who want to have an abortion, a week before her original due date?
In the United States, currently, no. But we can also say the same thing with the right. Currently, in the United States, the right wing is pro more restrictions for abortion.
Yeah, we can just say that generally speaking, the right is more rejects abortion, and the left accepts abortion more than the right does. Or you just say the left accepts abortion more than the right does. I mean,
well, we got the against.
That's entirely fair because there's too much nuance.
Yeah. No, I was just.
I think we remove it. I think we should remove it.
Yeah, just take abortion right off.
Just snap it.
Okay.
I guess, if there's that much contention, but again, I do think this is a valuable point to show how much, how much overlap there is between the left and right and how gray it is, as opposed to being always inherently adversarial.
Yeah,
I agree.
I wouldn't necessarily take
it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. So now what about when we're thinking about war and foreign policy? Don, I'm sure you have something to say about this. Like,
I do have something to say about this.
I would say both left and right respect the military. That's one of the last things in government that hasn't completely lost its credibility.
They do respect the military, okay.
Right.
Now,
I think this is more about like isolationist versus non-isolationist policies.
Yes.
And I think
It's
that
not left, right.
if you can go so far to the right where they're extremely isolationist, you can go so far like, you can the left, like some left is isolationist, some aren't, some are globalist, some people on the right want globalist economy. They want more free trade, they want less government intervention, they want more. So and that also comes into play with military. They want more military action, less military action. It's our duty as a military. It's not our duty as a military. So
yeah.
Okay, so what are some statements we can make about that? Like,
we can talk about patriotism, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's okay. Patriotism would be a better way to frame this, and I do say this as a democratic socialist that's far more hawkish than nearly everyone else that I know, right or left, actually. So I don't know if military is a good way to frame this.
Well, I did want to think about like certain military action and look at kind of general attitudes towards certain things, like the most recent terrorist that was killed while Trump was in office. What?
Oh yeah.
Are there
and
varying?
All lucky.
Yeah. Oh, I think we're getting Chad's feedback there.
Sorry.
Yeah,
that's all right. So are we? Do we think that there's a general attitude of like this kind of action is barbaric on the left, or are the left and the right generally pretty united on this kind of activity?
The left seems to scream out more about torture and things like that. That I've heard.
This is
I don't know if it's a left-right policy or issue. Excuse me.
Yeah, torture is a good thing to examine here.
The left could think of themselves as being more patriotic.
Yeah, who follows the Constitution closer? I don't know.
They do. They think that they're more American.
Yeah, I don't know what they think.
They'll say rhetoric like, "Hey, they've succeeded against the Union, and that Confederacy flag is a traitor to America and what it stands for."
Yeah,
and they got good arguments.
Okay, okay. So you're saying that, but is patriot? It is a fair point. Like do you think, Nivek, that patriotism is something that is held in a high regard on the left in general?
They define themselves more as Americans. They don't define the right as much as being Americans as they define themselves to be.
Would,
So the right think they're more patriotic, though. But I'm just saying
It's hard for me to say.
it's a versus argument.
Because I have a lot of leftist friends who are very patriotic.
Huh?
Would someone on the left versus someone on the right burn the American flag?
That's it's a
that's probably going to be associated more with the left, I would guess.
I'd like to examine that.
Clarify this.
Well, wave the Confederacy flag.
But the far left, I would guess, right? Like anarchists and
Nick,
things.
don't go to the Confederacy. Let's talk about the American flag. We use the United States as an example here. Flag burning. Do you think you're going to catch someone who's on the right wing ever burning the flag? Generally,
Did you see Bill O'Reilly burning a flag? I don't know.
So I think
not a fucking chance in the world.
Difference between no, you as of right now would not.
Now, but in the past, yeah.
In the past, what day in the past was that?
Let me actually specify here.
Go ahead, Chad.
The difference between nationalism and patriotism. I think that'd be an important distinction that we can make, and that might help play into the differentiation. Patriotism isn't necessarily left or right exclusive, because both are very concerned about a state as a whole, but nationalism tends to have that more negative connotation of just absolute, hey, top of the hierarchy, that's where our country sits. Everyone else is naturally and inherently lesser. Does that make a lot of sense to everybody, at least making that definition?
Yeah, totalitarian in a way.
Well, that would be chauvinism for sure.
Okay, so the right
I would say that on the far right, yes, nationalism comes about, whereas on the far left, anarchism comes about. But I wouldn't necessarily say all of the right is
truly religious thinkers
nationalistic.
would say.
I wouldn't either.
Everybody agree on that to some degree?
Yeah, like Mitt Romney, for example, is an internationalist. And he's on the right.
Yeah. And I guess, like I
He's
said, I
also
don't
for a
think
very
that,
small government, too.
Yeah, I don't think that everyone on the right is nationalistic, just like I don't think everyone on the left is anarchistic. But
So nationalist versus internationalist is an orthogonal dimension to left and right, just as libertarian and authoritarian.
that's your favorite word recently, isn't it?
What?
Yeah, it's useful.
It's a good one.
Orthogonal, yeah.
I've been saying orthogonal since I heard Sam Harris say it.
I literally said it the other day.
What the fuck is orthogonal? And then I had to look it up, and now I've been saying it for like 2 years straight. Damn you, Sam Harris.
Sam Harris has that effect on people, man. That guy's got a vocabulary like you wouldn't fucking believe.
Yeah. But yeah, so I would say if we're painting with extremes, then yeah, I guess you could say anarchism on the left and nationalism on the right, if you want to go that way. But I don't know how you want to frame it.
I'll go further. The word
well, it
right
sounds like
we're that sat on the right side of monarchy. We're pro-monarch.
Oh, sorry, Nevik.
Yeah, that's where the word right came from. Those who sat on the right side of parliament, they're pro-monarchy. So the word right itself is anti-American.
Well, I don't want to get too much into using the extremes to define this. What is hopefully a very simplistic test. I would like it to not like it is so far. Yeah. And of course, these terms can be upgraded and debated for days and weeks from now. No problem. But I think this will be a working document. Okay, so
there hasn't always been a two-party system in all forms of different governments. So it's not like,
Right.
it's always a specific nuanced case when you take these things into account.
Well, we're eventually
Right.
we're eventually going to be talking about dictatorship. So
I was going to say, we're going to get into the
Autocracies.
authoritarian versus
Yeah.
libertarian here in a little bit.
yeah, well,
need to,
we should talk about the differences in attitudes there. Let's start thinking a bit about where this conversation is going to go into Nazism and the Nazi Party. And what are going to be some things that are applicable and similar to?
I've already been researching while we're talking.
Yeah, to what we see. Symmetry. We haven't given you a lot of airtime, so why don't you?
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, give us some.
If you want to kind of go more towards what we've been focused on, which is the idea of socialism and Nazism, I've been reading a lot. That they're basically, they did pursue, but it was at best like secondary or tertiary to their main idealism of like racist eugenics.
Right.
That was
so
and most supporters of Nazis.
Yeah.
Most supporters of Nazism embraced the party precisely because they saw it as an enemy of or an alternative to the political left at that time in the country.
So let's.
So
I think it's also important to bring up that one of the main Nazi enemies were what they called cultural Marxists.
Yes.
Like they fought against socialists and Marxists and communists.
The NSDAP.
And we
But
will.
Travis said that they're against the elites.
And we will get there.
Jews.
What? Oh, that's why I have Don Don turned up to 200. I was like, why is Don Don's voice shaking my office? So that must mean Don Don's very special.
Love you too, brother. Love you too, brother.
So okay. Do we have anything else before we get that we think we need to sort out with regards to the differences between the left and right? And unsurprisingly, we have small lists here. Go ahead, Symmetry.
I was going to say, we haven't really covered the two things. What about left and right concerning socialism?
Okay.
What do you mean left and right concerning socialism?
Like, would you consider any right-wing ideology on the planet to be socialist? Is that a thing, or
no?
Like
it's not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hang on, and also
redistribution and policies for the wealthy.
Let's also ask it this way, maybe taking the ism out, and let's just talk about social policies, and we can talk about like policing, healthcare. How about attitudes towards freedom of expression, freedom of speech? Do you think there's an absolutist view of this on the right generally, and a view of this on the left that states, and I'm not talking about
a group that hates the First Amendment?
I'm talking about today. Like, if you're to examine today, do you think both, and let's look at the United States, do you think both sides of this political spectrum are equally united in the primacy of free speech?
I think I'll start. I would say kinda. And I say kinda because I feel like depending on which party is in power, they will try to exercise more curtailment of oppositional voices, whether that would be Democrats or Republicans. And since I believe the Democrats and Republicans don't equally distribute left and right, that my answer is kinda.
Yeah, I think it gets in real heavy into the authoritarian versus libertarian argument. Left and right, I would say, are equal in their defense of free speech.
Because on the right, it's kind of like, well, we could say anything, no matter if it offends. And then the left will say the things like pro-LGBT stuff, they want to cancel that.
I don't know of any bottom-up view of politics that like hates the First Amendment. I mean,
yeah, there's nobody so far.
Nobody's tried to ban any books. Nobody's tried to pull someone off of Twitter.
Twitter's not a government organization.
No, if on the right, if things are said that
I didn't say government. Who said government organization?
Yeah,
I did.
So
because
we're good. Move on.
Because left and right stratifies politically, not socially.
Yes.
Left and right doesn't. You're making an affirmative statement that left and right does not stratify socially.
Yeah.
So you can talk. So you can teach LGBT stuff in the school.
You can be a.
That's politically.
What does that mean?
Run by the government.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I mean by that. I'll tell you exactly what I mean. I mean that political attitudes are not they don't map on
religious thinkers would
social
say,
attitudes. Like you can have someone who's on the right, but socially is very much for like gays can do whatever they want. It's not my business. The state shouldn't be involved in it. It has nothing to do with each other. Right? And then vice versa, you can have a big deal. The state must get involved in this. They have to get involved in this. It's the duty of the state. Right?
Oh, sorry, I was responding to something. Did I get disconnected? Shit. Oh, man. Am I still live? Check.
That or you know.
Sorry, I got disconnected there.
Oh, you're good.
Oh no.
Shite. What happened?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Shite.
I'm looking right now. Nearly 600 books spanning a variety of genres and reading levels were a target of censorship attempts at libraries, schools, and universities last year. 8 out of 10 that made the American Library Association's most challenged books of 2019 list shared common LGBT content.
There we go.
So that's something that Scott had pointed out earlier, is that the most commonly referred for censorship, if you will, are anti, I guess, they're pro-LGBT books that right-wing / evangelical organizations have tried to ban in a political maneuver.
Most of the canceling came from the right throughout history.
You mean in terms of cancel culture overall from the right? Yeah, I guess I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I would say from religion. I would say from religion, but I guess it depends on whether the religions of the time were on the left or the right, and of course,
I think it would be logically imperative that. It would be logically imperative if the right is conservative and the left is progressive, that the vast majority of deviations from the social norms would come from the left.
Well, you know what's very interesting about that? Woodrow Wilson was an extremely progressive president, even though he rewrote history, was for slavery, but he had very progressive policies when it comes to like welfare and stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Social. Yeah, he did.
Which is why social things don't stratify left or right. Right, left. This is why
because people fighting for equality.
It brings us back to motivation. It brings us back.
It's just obfuscation.
Americans revolting against inequality were pro-slavery.
Which why brings us back to the way academics usually view left and right, which is hierarchy. So
power hierarchy.
That's kind of at the crux of the argument at the very beginning.
Yeah. That's the way postmodernists view it, anyway.
Where does that come from? Power
the way
hierarchy.
Historians have viewed it, but okay.
Well, we'll now. Do we have anything we think we need to add to the list, or have we simplified this enough?
For me?
It's actually on. It's on the stream.
Right.
But I'll go through it again. So on the left, abolishing social hierarchies, more gun control.
I would disagree with that, but
the gun control one.
Yes.
Does anyone else agree with Chad in that we should consider removing that?
I do.
Okay. And Doolittle, what do you think?
No.
Okay. Nivik, do you think we should remove the gun control one?
I don't know. I'm on the fence. Sorry.
What about you, Symmetry?
I understand what Chad's getting at. A lot of these things are not left-right issues, but just in the way that we're generalizing and using the nomenclature to categorize, it's fine with me.
It does make it less accurate, but yes.
If we're doing like a probabilistic model, no, we would want to be more accurate.
Yeah, there's a model that people can use in their own mind, and there's the way things actually cluster in the real world.
So Mace,
is it okay for me to say why I think?
I'd like you guys. I'd like to hear your arguments. I think this is important.
The reason why I don't think that it applies is let's just move historically too.
Yep.
There has been many gun legislation that was gun laws created during Jim Crow by Republicans, even during the 60s and the 70s against the Black Panther movement, because they didn't want them to have guns. So gun control isn't tied to left or right.
Yeah.
Name one in particular that you're talking about.
Okay, give me 1 second to quickly Google because I don't have the top of my head.
No, man, I believe you.
Who are the main political party?
Well, is it local, or is that a local legislation, or is that a national legislation like we're talking about?
It's a California bill.
Who was the main political party in control during the Jim Crow law?
So California being the most leftist of all states.
Ronald Reagan passed it.
Oh. Ronald Reagan, who was the governor of California.
Who was red.
Very.
Ronald Reagan ran as a Democrat when he was the governor of California.
Did he?
Was California always left?
Was he?
Far left?
Hang on, Nivik. Let them sort this out, please. What was that, Chad?
Ronald Reagan is colloquially known as a right-wing guy, right? Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
So he was someone who actually
was
enacted
on a
the
list
Mulford Act.
throughout his entire life?
Wait 1 second. Say that again, Chad. I wanted to hear what you said.
Ronald Reagan was the leader that enacted the Mulford Act in 1967, which repealed the law allowing public carrying of loaded firearms. I'm paraphrasing. I think that's pretty accurate, though.
Now, and then Doolittle asked if this was for his entire career, and was he?
Was Ronald Reagan a monolith?
But I also want to put that the NRA supported it. The NRA also supported it at the time.
It was also introduced by a Republican, if that means anything. Don
It's a
Mulford.
Republican in California, though.
Well, that's no true Scotsman if I've ever heard one, yeah?
No, California is a different state than Missouri, where you're from.
Are you arguing that Ronald Reagan?
Yeah,
and
that
Don
wasn't
Mulford
Chad.
that
wasn't a no true Scotsman, right?
How is it not?
Well, because you understand that there are different policies and political temperatures in different states, right? You know, let's say Texan governor who's a Republican may have different general attitudes as someone in the Republican Party who is successful in getting voted into a position of government in California.
So would you consider a Republican in California?
He
on
wouldn't
the
say,
right?
because a no true Scotsman in that case would have been if Doolittle would have said, well, he's not a real Republican.
Okay. Well, moving past that, then, if I say, would you consider a Republican in California as a Republican introducing this bill in California with Republican support? Are they on the right in California at that time?
And NRA support, which was the right.
And NRA support, are they on the right in that time?
Yeah. I don't know.
From the perspective of the California Party, from the perspective of an average Californian, a Republican would be on the right.
So in this case,
the National Rifle Organization supported it, not the California Rifle Association.
That too, yes. So what I'm trying to say is this is not something that is unique to the left. Gun control is very much on the right as well, so that's why we should remove it. That's all I'm saying.
In every case, there's going to be agreement about issues. The question is to what extent, meaning how much gun control. So we could say, like I said before with the redistribution, the same concept is the right wants less gun control or gun control to a lesser degree than the left does.
That is not true, though, based on multiple examples. I could give more if you would like.
It's not.
You're cutting out a little bit, bud.
Yeah, you're cutting out, bud.
I see where you're getting at, Chad, but people will less likely push back on the left when it comes to policies, because whenever something happens with a gun, all I see is right complaining they're going to gun grab again. They're going to come try to take our guns. I mean, the left is pro gun, but it's
is not what the left goes for, though. I'm saying.
I hear you coming from, but I'm just saying it's not like something that really moves them. It's they're not going to think, oh no, they're coming after our guns.
It is
the right does.
Republican President Richard Nixon wanted a federal ban on handguns. So did George W. Bush.
This is not a leftist
yeah, that's right.
thing.
I get where you're coming from.
I mean,
what we're talking about
that
in the current times is
how many people here agree with removing it, I guess.
Well, yeah, let's go around again, because we had Doolittle. What's happening to my mic here? Oh, there we go. We had Doolittle say no, keep it on. Symmetry said keep it on. Swaxy, did you vote? Should more gun control remain on the list of left ideas?
Wow.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Current left or
the left and right of today is what the list.
That's where I'm coming from, is today.
Yeah, if it's today, then I would agree that the left is more in favor of gun control, or not more in favor of gun control. Everyone's in favor of gun control.
They want more
left
gun
is more
control.
in favor to a higher degree. Gun control.
Okay, so what about Mace or Villain or Scott, Dal? Do you think the left is in general more favor of gun control or more gun control? They want more gun control?
Unquestionably.
Okay.
Getting some background noise.
He's probably driving. That's fine.
Dal
right.
Tzu, Scott?
I'd say yeah.
Nivik, you say yes?
Sorry, I just jumped in. What are you guys actually talking about when you say gun control?
So just so it's a simplified statement. So Scott, it's just a simplified statement to try and what we're doing is trying to come up with this simplified list of some differences between the idea of left and right politically.
Yeah.
Now, and on the left, currently what we're discussing is the statement more gun control. Do you think that is a general idea that exists on the left?
Probably not as much as people tend to think it does. You know, I mean, it might be a bigger thing for people who are on the left on the posts.
What about in terms of just like the moderate left?
Well, yeah, people who are on the left in the middle of the country, those people all have guns. You know, I mean,
No. Sorry, Scott. I'll clarify again. It's not about like whether they want guns or not, or they like having guns. It's specifically, and we're being as specific as we can with these things, about more gun control.
Yeah.
But I would say for that, I guess I'm just confused as to what the specificity of gun control means. Are we talking about background checks? Are we talking about banning
everything
types of weapons?
So just on the left, so just in general, everything to do with control.
The $20,000 pyramid got.
What? It did
$20,000. You got 5 seconds to say something the left would say or something the right would say. More gun control, Scott.
Right.
More gun control.
Actually,
something the left would say or something the right would say.
That is a good point. Doing this like Family Feud. Something the left would say. Show me more gun control. 50 points. That's basically the game we are playing here.
That's what we're playing.
If that was the case,
survey says yes.
I mean,
survey says yes on that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all know it's more nuanced than a small conversation.
Travis, you forgot to say
Right.
survey says.
Obviously.
Yes, that's why we started off by saying these are just general things that we can perhaps apply later.
That's why I
these
think we
general
should continue to nail it down like we have been and not get off on the semantics as best we can.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep more gun control for now, but of course it's up for discussion still. A controlled distribution of resources. Does anyone disagree with that at this point on the left column?
No. I would say both sides are for that, 100%.
So the controlled part, Scott?
Yeah, because there's no economy. Economies don't exist without distribution or redistribution of wealth, period.
Okay.
Generally, I guess that's right.
Okay.
That's the fundamental.
That's not what a
economy.
right winger would say, quote unquote. I guess, right? Though, I mean, if we're going
Here's
for
because we want to try to
laissez-faire
imagine
capitalism.
Because we are going to get into the hierarchy problem again, because when we were talking about hierarchies, a whole bunch of people wanted to argue that you can't escape hierarchies. But even though we thought that abolishing social hierarchies on the left side was generally a good thing to add to the list.
You got to throw facts and reasoning out the window, Scott.
Well, no, don't do that.
Come on, Nevik.
Yeah, so Scott, the opposite of the controlled distribution of resources, which exists on the right, as we suppose, is that whatever you can negotiate for, you deserve.
Yeah, that's what the opposite.
Okay, so whatever you can negotiate for, you deserve.
Is rightfully yours is the way we put it.
It's rightfully yours.
Whatever you can legally,
which is literally just establishing a hierarchy. It's okay where people
if you can get away with it, negotiate.
No, it's like corporate mentality.
Something the right would say, yes or no.
It is something that I would say, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Control distribution of resources. What about social equality? Are we still okay with that on the left?
Yes.
Egalitarianism. Yep.
I would add egalitarianism. Yes.
Now,
we already killed it in egalitarianism.
I think we did already kill it because there's a few people that think it exists on the right, but let's have more says. Should egalitarianism be on the left column, or is that too universal?
It might be universal because a lot of the Christians on the right would say that equality for everyone is a great thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is.
The moral value of a person is just because they're a person. It's not because of what kind of person. That's
Yeah, I mean, to me that would seem like in the United States, especially. I think that applies to both sides, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's on the left.
All right.
Would it be more so on the left, though?
Yes.
I don't think so. What you'll hear the right talk about is equality is not the same thing as equity. So
they like equality for tribal systems, but not for like the entirety.
Everybody.
It's a hierarchy, which is kind of what we were getting to. Egalitarianism is fighting against the natural order, quote unquote, of a hierarchy. Yeah. So I would say, again, if we're using the game show thing, I'm in favor of egalitarianism. Is that a righty thing or a lefty thing?
Right now,
people view of equality.
Okay, villain.
Right?
So villain says left.
Strongly left, right?
Chad says left. What about you, Don? With egalitarian?
Egalitarian equality, abolishing hierarchy is absolutely left.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I do want to say, because I looked it up. Definition is the doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. Isn't that pretty much what's enshrined in the Constitution? That's why I say it's. I mean,
right.
Well, the Constitution isn't a uniquely right thing, is it?
Nope.
No, but that's
actually it's more left
that's sort of the basis.
There is some garbage in there.
yeah, but it's sort of what you laid down as like here are guiding principles.
See,
of course, there's not going
to it's left ideals mostly.
Look, this is one of the reasons why we left egalitarianism off this list. It's an ism, and when it comes to isms, everyone's got their own fucking idea of exactly how it ought to be used and applied. And right here, we are being faced with it right now.
I get it, but
equality on the left, and we'll move on.
Like I said, let's use the same litmus test we have been using.
Sure.
I support egalitarianism. Is that a lefty thing or a righty thing for $20,000 in a pyramid?
I say it's both based on what Scott just read.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I mean, I think both parties definitely say they're pro equality, egalitarianism, etc.
Right. See, and that's how we have to. I think that's how we have to view these things.
But, all right.
Yeah, they wouldn't say they're not.
Yeah.
Sounds
I
good.
I mean, listen, as someone who's clearly on the left, I would argue right wing kind of is antithetical to it. But
yeah. I hear, and Don, I really appreciate that, because that's an important differentiation of what we're doing here. It's not about, what you think is right, because the other side thinks they're doing it, but they're not doing it. We're trying to come up with these, what is going on, and then we'll get to the ought, right? We're going to be here. We're going to be here all week.
The Constitution is based on leftist ideals that the right rebelled against.
Would you find more people on the left or the right that just flat out said, no, I am not in favor of egalitarianism?
Oh, wait. Sorry,
You'd
Villain.
find more people on the right.
Oh.
Yep. I would say definitely on the right. So that would make me give that as a talking point towards egalitarianism being more on the left.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my argument, but...
All right. Well,
I'm not for egalitarianism. I'm for complementarianism, but I think that's a right-leaning thing I hold.
Well, I think there's enough muddiness here for me to leave it off the list for now. And of course, this is going to be a conversation we continue doing, perhaps in our master list, because we're going to make this master list, man. And we're
trying to leave our personal ideas out of it as much as we can. Just a good list to get us to the point to where we can talk about Nazis.
Exactly. The end goal of this game is to talk about Nazis.
Yes.
Okay.
I like all of
social.
that I've heard so far, though. Lots of good stuff.
Now on the left, I think this is fascinating. On the left, abolishment of greed. I think. Is everyone okay with that on the left? Abolishment of greed?
I don't know what that means. I wasn't here for that.
No.
I don't know what that means.
I don't agree with that.
Can someone explain it to me before I agree to it?
I think the idea was that there's this perceived unfairness towards, let's say, an individual who has amassed an incredible amount of wealth. Say they have let's talk about the 1% in the United States. The left is interested in abolishing anything they would consider too greedy.
No, they didn't have a problem with that.
I mean, I
more
think
about the
I-
system corruption.
I think I think people on the right also hate greed. I mean, what if like
lot of
Jesus'
Trump
tenants?
supporters.
Don't be greedy, give charity.
So the left
They think-
are.
Ooh, but hang on, hang on.
Remember, Travis, you boiled that down from being against exploitation.
Yeah. Right. So, but the main differentiation here, guys, is that on the right, would they want to abolish that greed, or would they just have a moral stance against the greed? Because the important part is that the left would want to seek to abolish it, but the right.
The people on the left don't have a problem with people being as rich as they want.
One at a time.
Whoa.
Go ahead, Don first.
I don't know how. I don't think I've never heard anyone say they want to abolish greed.
Right.
I don't even know how to think about that.
The exploitation was a better descriptor, but
Yeah, but the right would say they also want to abolish exploitation. They don't think these are exploitative systems.
Okay.
Okay. The term they use is "eat the rich."
What was that,
they
Villain?
don't prioritize it.
He said, "I've never heard them use that term, abolish greed or the rich, but I think the term they use is eat the rich."
Eat the rich.
Eat the rich. I mean, yeah, the left. How about this? I would say the left is definitely against the super wealthy.
Okay.
Because they're greedy.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, like hoarding wealth or whatever that is.
I hear a lot say they don't have a problem with people being wealthy. They can be as wealthy as they want to be.
I guess hoarding wealth is what we're talking
but Scott,
No, man,
isn't
it's
the
like
right?
rigging.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, I want to pass the mic around, guys. I'll do that. So Scott, you first, and then Underjoyed.
Yeah. I just wanted to sort of point out. I mean, you just even look at like your typical Trump supporter. It's not necessarily this idea of destroying greed or whatever, abolishment of greed. They're more along the lines of like, fuck Jeff Bezos, let's take down Amazon, or fuck Mark Zuckerberg, let's take down Facebook, or fuck.
Okay.
And they go after certain big businesses. But
Right.
not all. But it's the same. But I think it's the same thing with on the left. The left will tend to go after certain big businesses, but leave some alone, even though they're still
Okay. So the
look at
greed.
Coca-Cola commercial. They had a bunch of ethnic races. Woo.
Underjoyed, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I think one of the big critiques from the left is not, hate the players, hate the game. So the problem is, things like tax loopholes, things like why do we have billionaires? Why do we have people like Jeff Bezos? Why do we have people like Elon Musk? It's not that they're evil, they're bad. And that's the difference because I think conservatives have a sort of idea that people deserve to be rich because they have done something. So hold on, let me finish my point real quick. So on the right, the acceptance of people that are ultra rich is that anyone can get that point, and if you're good enough, if you're worthy enough by God or whatever, you can become rich just like any other rich person. But the left's critique is not that these people are necessarily evil, it's the system that creates this inequality. So the problem is tax loopholes, corporate tax loopholes, like the way Apple's able to shelter their money in offshore accounts in Ireland and all that shit. That's the person. No one has a hate. No one hates that. Oh man, Jeff Bezos is evil because they have billions of dollars. I don't know any leftist that actually thinks the problem is that Jeff Bezos is inherently evil and for having billions of dollars. It's literally a critique of the system. So I think that's the difference between the right accepting rich people and the left critiquing the system.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. When I had said exploitation, it didn't even necessarily have to be about amounts of wealth. It's I'm going to take advantage of this system or this person because I can take advantage of it.
Oh, how about
that's
this?
the right.
Does the left think that there ought to be a limitation on wealth?
No.
Okay.
Limitation on exploitation.
It's a limitation. Yeah, like she said, it's a limitation on exploitation. Not
The reason
wealth.
the reason why they think that is because the system is unfair to begin with of inequality. Why there is so as far as they're concerned, it's kind of like we should put a limitation because of the unfairness that was gotten from people.
Ooh, I have my real estate license. If anyone wants to buy a house, by the way. So here's an example, right? So a big controversy with landlords right now is that people that have like social welfare credits for housing, it's called the HUD system here. People can't discriminate if they want to use it. So let's say you have like $800 in HUD credits to use towards rent. Well, previously in our area, a landlord could say, okay, this is, government supported housing. I'm not going to count that $800 as income. Now, a law just passed that $800, whether it's a credit or whether it's $800 cash, that landlord has to count that as income, and they are flipping out about it. So in that situation, they're receiving the same amount of money that I guess a tenant is technically giving them the same amount of money. It's just they can't discriminate because they don't want poor people there, and there's this assumption that poor people are going to screw up their property and blah 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 blah. But yeah, that is something that I would think would differentiate left and right, exploitation versus not.
$800. It's not actual money that they have of HUD credit. It's just I'm not understanding.
Well, what's the difference between $800 of HUD credit and $800 cash that some college graduate is given each month by their rich parents?
So, Chris, what would be the left statement then about exploitation that you think would best suit what you're arguing here?
So when you have landlords and stuff, we're starting to face a housing crisis in our area newly. It's been a big issue in a lot of areas. But, when you have property owners that are buying up, all of the housing, like any house, you could buy for under $100,000, becomes non-existent when, you have someone buying up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of properties. And then people who would like to buy no longer have the option to buy. And they're essentially just kind of locked in, more or less. It's a whole system I'd rather not necessarily go into, but I don't want to say it's necessarily all has to do with exchange of money.
So the main thing I was looking for, Chris, is that if we were to add something about exploitation to the left side of our list, what phrase would we want to put in there? What goal?
Yeah, would it be the abolishment of exploitation? Oh, sorry.
Ultimate goal, abolishing exploitation or limiting it significantly.
Right. So now, isn't the abolishment of exploitation a goal of the right as well?
No.
Anyone else?
You'd have to define what
exploitation
means.
Exploitation is the use of power hierarchies to disenfranchise those in the lower ends. And that is because inherently the right tends to support the establishment and maintenance of the hierarchies that kind of comes along with the territory.
Doolittle, what do you think?
Exploitation is an illusion that only comes about from the frame of reference of a person who is at the bottom of the hierarchy.
Then that sounds like there's our divide, and it makes sense to put exploitation on the left then, yeah?
Yeah.
There we go.
No, it's not an exploitation. Some people consider it exploitation. We went through this before. Some people don't.
Well, that's specifically what we're saying. If the left are concerned,
for example, I'll give you an example. I'm a landlord. I have more than one house with renters in it, and I explicitly do not rent to people who don't make their own money. I only rent to people who have good jobs, who have trade skills, and who can take care of the property that they're living in. And if somebody came to me with a check from the HUD for $800 to supplement the rent, I would say, you are not allowed to live in my house. Goodbye.
Right.
I want to say something.
And is that Yeah. Yeah. I want to get. What I really want to get to, and Villain, you can go just after this, and just so I can outline it again. I just want to see if anyone, is there anyone that thinks that getting rid of exploitation any way that we can, abolishing exploitation, isn't a united goal of the left and right, and you specifically think it's on one side?
Well, so free market capitalism.
Chris, you're completely
I don't even
cutting
disagree
out.
with Chaz. Like Chad that
You're breaking up.
sorry, I'm driving about right now. Can you hear me now?
It's slightly better, yeah.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Okay. I would argue that it's not even just hierarchies and people. It's I think Pangburn was brought up earlier. Tax loopholes. If I can take advantage of this system, even if it may not be good for others, but it's going to be good for me. If they don't know it's bad for them, even better. I think a lot of it, what people would say isn't exploitation, and some people say is exploitation, depends on if someone doesn't know they're being exploited, are they being exploited?
What if they do and they fight back and you exploit them anyway?
I think the comment about taxes is really interesting because this is one of the things that both people agree is tax is exploitation, but they agree on in different aspects, such as, for example, the left thinks that's exploitation for corporations to not pay their fair share of taxes, while on the right, a lot of people on the right thinks taxation in itself is exploitation. So, it's kind of in both ways. They're trying
This is what I'm getting at.
You're missing another factor.
Yeah.
You're missing another factor with pay, and where if they could pay you nothing on the right, of pennies in cheap labor, they would. And the left is about more pay.
Well, again, it's to the extent, the right is not trying to abolish minimum wage. So again, we go back to the thing where the left wants it to a higher degree and the right wants it to lower degree. But I agree with Travis and Underjoyed about this point that the right, it depends what you call exploitation. We could say that taxes is exploiting the rich, or we could say that not paying higher taxes is exploiting the lower class of society. And we could say the same thing about abortion. Some people consider it exploitation to kill a fetus, while some people consider it going against the rights of woman autonomy. So it depends what you call it.
Pay is not exploitation. Wanting that.
I'm going to be honest. At this point, it sounds like we need to move on.
Yeah. Well, I'm fine with us.
I want to stress it's a lot of ways.
Trying to fight to have certain things make the list, but I think it's been demonstrated that exploitation there are examples of where people on the right might be fighting against what they think is exploitation, right?
Where would that be? I was going to say there's a trouble with this word because the two main definitions of this word, the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work, or number two, the action of making use and benefiting from resources. So some people, I would say left people would look at the Waltons family, and I've heard that them being described as evil a lot because they're exploiting the workers. They're not paying them enough. And I think the right doesn't look at it the same way. In that situation, the right might be mad that the government is subsidizing, because almost every Walmart worker is on massive subsidies. But I think the first definition is tended to be used by left people. I don't think you're going to hear right-leaning people use that term in that way very often.
I was going to say something about that. There's a measure of fairness in there, which of course is going to be very, very subjective. Someone might think that $12 an hour is a fair wage, and then the next person's like, no, what's fair is $14 an hour. So when fairness is being considered within what is who's being exploited, then I think it can't be on the list. But again, this is a working list. I think we all agreed that abolishment of greed we remove. It was once there, now gone. Okay, now we're on to the right. We got four items to go through again. To conserve the status quo. How are we feeling about that one?
I would have a / tradition, and kind of, I guess that would be the best way to describe it.
Okay. Any who agrees with Chad on that one?
Yeah,
that's
I'd
what
say
the term
traditionalism earlier.
is.
So
It's the idea of conservatism, which is a right-leaning view.
Right.
So status quo and we can add and traditionalism.
I'm a little torn since a lot of them are anti-government, but yeah.
I don't. Maybe it's not that they want to keep the status quo. It's just that temperamentally they feel that that's the best way to live.
So,
Meaning, it's not that they're striving to keep the status quo. Is that that's what they think is best. So it's not.
How about so I have an upgrade. I agree with you, Swaxy. So what if we say to conserve an effective status quo and traditionalism?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
Just so it doesn't.
That's a conservative.
Yeah, the right.
That's a conservative thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't agree with that.
Why not?
I'm not sure either.
I think there's a difference between status quo
there.
And tradition. I think the status quo thing. I do not think that. I mean, I consider myself a conservative. I'm a Trump supporter. I'm also, just one person. But I think, and before I say anything else, I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't here the whole time. But I want to say that I think there's a big difference between the politicians on the right and Trump supporters. And I don't know if you're just making a distinction between the general public.
No.
Like
I said that earlier. So we've been.
We're setting up to talk about Nazis, Amy.
Amy, we had that discussion. We had that discussion about traditionalism and status quo earlier in the past. When I asked what's the difference between status quo and traditionalism, and they said, "Okay, yeah, let's get rid of traditionalism."
So
I would say that they're traditional, but I would not think that most conservatives would advocate for the status quo.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they want to conserve the functional aspects of society right now and are very leery of not even that. Are very leery of progressing too fast because it might damage the functionality and the good things that we have now.
Because they're anti-government.
But wouldn't traditionalism by definition be about bringing about or maintaining a type of status quo?
Thank you, Dan.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
it's a social status quo. I think it's like a family values. I think it's like
that's still
that
fine.
kind of.
Yeah.
But they're separating it. Some people separate
financial or political.
Some people separate it with government, with the culture.
Cultural status quo, yes, but that's about it.
Roxy, what's up?
Tradition is culture.
I don't think it. I don't think they're trying to keep tradition.
One sec, you guys. Let's go. Swaxy. We'll go Swaxy, then Underjoyed. Go ahead, Swaxy.
I don't think that people on the right are trying to keep tradition for tradition's sake. I think, as someone else pointed out, or maybe it's Villain, that they're keeping tradition because they're weary of change. I think it's a temperamental issue, and that they appreciate what has worked in the past, and they don't want to screw it up, and so they're more inclined to be conservative. But it's not that they want this. Yeah, but it's not that they want. I don't think there's. You're equating tradition with status quo. I think it's very different. They happen to keep tradition because they're weary of change, not because they want the tradition to be kept.
I would not agree with that as a conservative.
Right, I'm saying
okay, guys.
I mean, generally,
generally
they're more inclined to be conservative. They're more inclined to keep tradition because they're weary of change, and they like what's going on.
Now,
is that why, or are there other reasons?
Whatever the reasons are, they're to maintain the current structures.
Yes.
So, Underjoyed, you had something?
Yeah, just real quick. I think there are conservatives do have pragmatic reasons for certain ideologies, but I think conservatives are unique in having certain ideologies that the left find completely irrational. So certain things like why can't gays get married or be a couple? So, and conservatives have traditionally been completely opposed to certain things that have completely no pragmatic value, and the only value is in a completely dogmatic view. So the only reason conservatives would find, gay people getting married problematic is not for any pragmatic reasons, for completely dogmatic reasons. So this is why a lot of people on the left or Democrats have a lot of problem with certain views that conservatives have, and it's not for all their views that certain views that are conservatives are pragmatic, but certain views are completely irrational in the views of a leftist.
I want to ask on put that point you made. So you say that conservatives are against gay marriage because it's just purely irrational. They have no pragmatic reason behind that. Why do you think dogmatic? Why do you think that?
He said
it's a religious base.
He said dogmatic.
Yeah. But I don't think so. A lot of people look at history and they see the fall of many cultures.
He makes a good point, though.
The fall of many cultures, exception. Am I saying the right word? Of non-heteronormative practices are accepted by society before every fall of a great culture, and a lot of people that aren't even I find no religious. I have no against gay marriage religiously. But I do think that once you start mixing up and changing the building blocks of society, which in Western culture I would say is the nuclear family or the extended family, and once you start redefining things like marriage, I think I believe that actually changes the way society works. And
you
guys, I'm just gonna stop. You guys, hang on. Hang on. You guys, I don't want to get into ideology right now. I just wanted to let Villain finish his thought. I still want to continue on with this project. I know this is torturous, but please stick to the process.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually my point, is that you were like getting into people's like beliefs and why they hold stuff rather than examining like the different thing.
Right. Okay. So back to status quo and traditionalism. If someone state simply what their argument is against having status quo and traditionalism in there?
I'd like to say that when we say that they want to maintain status quo, I think that's a drop off.
Okay.
I don't think it's just that they're weary of change, as I said before. It's not that they care about keeping the past. They would love to improve the past, and conservatives have brought in ideas that have changed and improved on things. But I mean, not conservatives, people on the right. I'm just equating.
How about this? A cautious. I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit, Swaxy. Sorry. A cautious approach to something to do with being cautious.
We can say they're inclined toward conservatism, or we can say they're.
I want to keep the isms out of it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I didn't.
Okay, well here's a scientific answer to that. It goes against Bayesian reasoning. If you're traditionalist or are kind of like conservative, it seems to me that entire ideology goes against Bayesian reasoning, that any new information we're able to accumulate throughout the 21st century, you're willing to ignore, bypass, and not implement that in your worldview, which I think is completely unscientific, regardless of religion or ideology.
Hang on. We're not going to get into ideology, guys. Underjoyed. Yeah. We're not getting into the ideological.
Travis, what do you mean by status quo? Because when you say that, I hesitate because
I don't use
the plantation owners we're going to keep the blackies in their status.
Right.
I'm going to be the. and I don't think that's true of the right.
See,
I don't think I am very against the
I think people. It's weird. I don't use the term. It's one that was thrown out there to put in here, and people generally agreed with it, and I was okay with it. Status quo being like maintain what we're doing. That's why I added an effective version of what we are doing.
So I do want to say the definition for status quo has nothing to do with maintaining. It literally just is saying the existing state of affairs, especially regarding social or political issues. So all it is saying is what exists right now. If you want to maintain the existing state of affairs,
so we need a word.
That's what that means.
To conserve the whole statement we have right now is to conserve an effective status quo. So how
want to be even more liberals want to move forward and conservatives want to go back.
Status quo is getting in the.
Is that we ever have an example where that has been the case, right? At some point in time, maybe 1,000 years ago, we figured out the answer that we have not evolved from, and that's the argument that leftists make, that status quo always changes and should always change, because we have never reached that point where we have had an example where yes, this has always been the case. Underjoyed, but you do understand we're not talking about ought right now. We're trying to come up with statements to apply to these labels.
We could all agree that it fits well on the right. I think that the right and conservatives in general and the right tend to think society is something fragile and can collapse. So they want to be very careful and they want to conserve it as it is and move slowly. So I think this does go on the right.
To conserve or move with caution, or move to conserve or move with caution.
Go backwards.
State of affairs or existing conditions.
The right would prefer to keep things as they are currently, rather than to risk rapid social change.
Well, it's to conserve conditions.
That's very accurate.
Yeah.
Or war.
Wait,
sounds like
the left is more
everyone's in
willing to
agreement.
risk rapid social change.
What did Villain? Can you say that again? There's too many people talking.
The right tends to lean towards conserving society as it is, rather than risking rapid social change.
Or social change, rapid or not.
Because the things that are existing now, they could be against. So, or was.
I think the reason that there is a goal of conservation is a direct result of the places that the left are trying to go rapidly. So it's not necessarily that they're against change per se, but they're against the change that the left is trying to enact. So we're called conservative by default.
It's not derogatory term.
Yeah, you guys, we need to stop.
But you have to
higher than
describe it that way.
change.
Villain, you might want to wait a second.
We're not resistant to change. We're resistant to the change that the left is trying to shove rapidly.
Would you say that that's a reactionary movement?
Yeah, it's a reaction from the left. Yeah.
So hold on, Underjoy.
Guys, we're going to have a lot of time to talk about who's right and who's wrong politically, and the reason why things are the way they are. But we're actually just trying to identify the way things are the way they are right now today.
Yes.
So,
can I ask something?
I think
just hang on, guys. I want to finish this off. So, Villain said something to conserve society, and I added to conserve a functioning society.
I think these questions would work better if for this topic we're on. I think it would better to say the right leans this way in this area and the left leans that way in this area. So the right would tend towards more highly valuing homeostasis societal wise.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Progress.
Yeah, so this is what we're doing. Yeah,
homeostasis versus progress.
Yeah, so Villain,
I disagree.
It's not quite as easy as that. What we're working on is much more laborious.
Yes.
So
this is a rigorous thing.
So right to conserve. How about to conserve a functioning society?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Because I think we need.
I would like to
agree with
add
that.
something else on top of that. Yes. So I agree, and then I'd like to ask another question.
Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
So it is to conserve a functioning society. What exactly is the threat that we are fighting against? Because Amy actually said it out specifically. She said that it is kind of a reactionary movement.
Right.
I do believe that that is a right trait, where it is a little bit more prone to establishing an other, like a opposition, right? Would that make sense, Amy? Since conservatives are acting against the left, that's a more reactionary movement.
Yeah, I think that matters for what he's trying to accomplish here.
Right.
Maybe it does. I don't.
People
know.
also agree that like on the right, it's to conserve a functioning society for the future. Like it's a very important point. If we have to do this for the future, is better off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a resistance to a specific change that is in the opposition, and so it's not a fear of change. It is a fear of the change that's being pushed by the opposition.
Yes,
and,
it's a defense against the other, right?
Yeah.
Well, the
And I
left can
guess
be about
in the
change for a better
absence of us-
future.
Of us, you're right. In the absence of us pushing for our own specific thing, I guess it is conservative to then, maintain the status quo as we progress.
Now,
But I don't think it's fair to say that conservatives are afraid of change. I
agree with you, and I agree with.
I agree with you, Amy. It's not necessarily fear of change.
I agree.
Hesitance to negative change.
Real
That
quick,
will
what's
make the
there a
society
difference
not
in
as good for the future.
What's negative change?
That's the issue right there, Don.
Hang on.
That's the value judgment. That's the value.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and we want to
Conserve a
stay away
functioning
from
society for the future of our generations, right? Like that's really what it is.
Yes. Okay, and yeah, so here's how I have it right now: to conserve a functioning society for the future. Is that simple enough? Okay. Now the next one on the right, maintaining the social hierarchies.
I agree.
Can someone give an example or
historically,
two?
But I don't.
Today, we're talking about today, by the way, guys.
Like an example would be when you're rich, right? And like the pathway to making money and getting rich, if free market capitalism and the people who have money, it's because meritocracy, they deserved it. They did the right thing. They're not, the system is built in a way that promotes ingenuity and structure, right?
Yes.
If you're another way to put it is if you're
The left thinks like
and
that
you're publishing papers and they get peer reviewed, it's totally other professors that get to say that your work is bullshit. You get to have some random Joe Blow that didn't even graduate from high school peer reviewing something in the Nature publication.
Okay.
It's only other physics professors that get to peer review physics articles. There's a social hierarchy there. You have to obtain a certain status before you can challenge another person's status.
And Doolittle, do you agree with the maintaining the social hierarchies on the
as opposed to tearing them down? That's right. Yeah, the right versus left. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't agree with that per se. With the recent politics, I would say that Trump's platform was about dismantling that, a lot of that. So it depends on how you look at social hierarchy. The meritocracy thing, yes, but is there a lot of shit that, even the person working hard that should be able to access, the top of the hierarchy, we cannot because the elite, so there's corruption and you have to play the game and you have to be corrupt to get in the club.
There's the other that you have to fight against. Sorry.
We're talking about right versus left, not populism.
Yeah, and we're also not talking about specific
I think
attitudes
historically I
of
would
political-
probably agree with that, but I just have a nuanced take.
Right. So we're kind of thinking we're trying to think generally about how things are today. Maintaining the social hierarchy is okay. And again, this can all be changed. Promoting gun ownership.
Promoting?
Yeah.
Why do you say promoting?
I mean, I'd agree or disagree with it for the same reason I disagree with the gun control on the left, but that's
promoting
just me.
the second, or like preserving the Second Amendment.
Chad, you disagree with the gun control on the left because of historical events, or because currently you think that there's the same degree of gun control advocacy on both sides?
Both.
Yeah, I think it's different recently too.
Both historically and currently. As a lefty, quote unquote, that is very, very focused on firearms, that runs in many circles that are also very focused on firearms, that are actually farther left than I. Yeah, it's something that it's hard to get away from the proliferation of firearms in America, whether you're left or right. But that's where I'll stop it, because I know I don't want to get too contentious.
Yeah. But another thing, guys, remember we're focusing on the control aspect, right?
Yes.
Not about like how gun toting one side is versus the other. We're talking about the attitudes towards control in the gun control.
So they're a gun toting lefty?
Hanging Chad.
Hey, Chad, do you think would you think that the better way to provide gun safety would be like to prevent people from owning guns, or if more people owned guns, that would cause more gun safety?
More people owning guns would lead to more education and a more normalization of the actual, use of the tool that is a firearm.
All right, I didn't expect that.
Interesting.
Let me give this example of why I think gun control is an issue on the left. Would you guys consider California? I know we did this. California a left-leaning state?
Yes.
In California, you not only have to register all of your firearms, it's almost impossible to get a concealed weapons carry in most places in California. You also have to register your ammo in California. In North Dakota,
with the laws, yes.
would you think North Dakota would be? Would you consider that a left or right-leaning state?
There's not enough people to say. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And I do have a counter question to this whenever you're done.
I would consider North Dakota a right-leaning state, and you can buy handguns in gas stations in North Dakota.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty. America is the best place to get a firearm if you need it.
Okay, I really want to get through these last 2 points, and then I think we'll take a break and come back.
What is the purpose of this?
Anyone wants to come back? Well, what we're doing right now is a very laborious dissection of some of the things that those of us who are engaging with this project, statements that we can actually agree on with regards to, generally agree on. Of course, Chad has a disagreement with the more gun control thing. But then what we're going to do once we have our list, we're gonna take a look and try and find out where we made a mistake based on looking at the evidence of reality, as opposed to, for the most part, just what we think from our chair. And then once we have these lists, and we might not be able to get to this all today, of course, but once we have these lists, I want to look at our well thought out list, and we can look at things like Nazism or any of these issues that always come up where people say, well, the left is to blame for this, the right is to blame for that, where people very much generalize these political attitudes, I guess, and use our master list here and upgrade it and keep working on it, and see if it can perform a useful function. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it is to sort out, with regards to Nazism and the Nazi Party, where our list starts to match up with the Nazis. If we can find if we can find any of our examples that might ring true with the Nazi Party that we've
Can you go
used.
over what we have so far, just to like hear what's going on the lists?
Yeah. So this is our, I think, third time moving through it. So just quickly, we just went through the left, abolishing social hierarchies, more gun control, a controlled distribution of resources, social equality. And then on the right, we have to conserve a functioning society for the future, maintaining the social hierarchies. And then what I just stated, and this has not been agreed upon yet, but we have two more to state, which we have come up with, as promoting gun ownership. So a positive promotion of gun ownership by people who would call themselves right. Now, and I think there's going to be some argument here, rightly so, that perhaps promoting gun ownership belongs on the left as well, which would mean we would axe it from the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the promoting a better
hold on,
society.
Chris was saying something. She hasn't spoke for a little while.
So I would say it exists as a baseline for both of them, and it's definitely increased exponentially it's probably for the left as far as promotion goes. But I do see the difference between control and promotion. So, my grandma, who didn't even own any guns, was super proud to be part of the NRA and had a little silver gun necklace that she got for being donating so much. She just, is a Republican and, had money to burn and, was super proud to be a Republican. And I think that fetishization of guns is more frequent on the right. I know lots of leftists that are trying to promote. Promoting is a much bigger effort and a big.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh.
we lost you for a second.
I think the glorification of the firearm is dangerous. I do not have a gun; they terrify me. I think that we should maintain our right to have one, but the glorification. I live in the South, and it's
I live in the South
it's,
too. I don't have a gun either, so I'm with you.
yeah, it's they're a little proud, and it's a little
They are.
So
yeah, it's
so
kinda,
let's
they are.
bothers me a little bit.
Let's do our little Chris.
He's afraid of me.
I think Chris, you had a bit more of your story to go there, but
Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I would just say that it is predominantly more on the right where you can have that fetishization of
I was
being
gonna
a gun owner and that gun culture overall. But
That's a good word for it too. Fetishization
is right.
Yeah, there you go.
So now if we were to do the Family Feud test and say promoting gun ownership, and you had to pick left or right, what are you going to choose if you're on Family Feud?
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, that's not a political. It's not a political viewpoint. Promoting.
But why not? For the sake of it.
That's not a Family Feud answer. Come on, give me a Family Feud answer.
Yeah, give us a family. Come on, Swaxy.
Just to move the
That's
subject.
right.
We're into guns lately.
We could say what we did for the left was good because then we're talking about politics. We're talking about government and laws. Gun control has to do with laws, but promoting is slightly different because it has to do with culture. It's not a politics.
Yeah,
We all seem to somewhat agree.
Yeah, so it sounds like the promotion, a much different issue than control. Do we, for now, remove promoting gun ownership from the right?
I would.
No.
I think so. It seems obviously a right thing to me. If you
right,
came to Oregon and you saw a guy with his truck bumper sticker that said Oregonian, or if you saw somebody wearing a T-shirt that said "Defend the Second Amendment," would you assume that person was a right-leaning person or a left-leaning person?
When I've got somebody with a bumper sticker that literally is quoting Marx talking about firearms, I don't know, dude. I can read the quote again if that's useful.
You avoided my question.
Hang on, guys. Hang on. I want to say. I want to say.
In today's America, sure. I don't know about.
Or maintaining. What if we changed it to, instead of promoting, maintaining gun ownership?
Yes.
But or isn't that still a something the left is attempting?
No, that's a left thing.
That's definitely left still.
Okay, you know what?
Also just
You know what? There's
add
enough.
it.
There's enough contention here where we're going to take it off and we'll table it for
Good.
next time. We can think about it some more.
Yeah, write it down, put it away.
Now,
Pissing
okay,
contests
the
are
last
right
one.
thing as kids go.
Sorry, what,
Let's
Chris?
lead on the left.
Yeah.
Oh, I said show voting.
Last one, Travis, and then we can talk about Nazis.
Hold on, Doolittle. She was talking.
You are going to see people on the left holding pissing contests about their guns. Like they're going to be like, working class should own guns. I think I want to learn. I bought a gun. Hey, some of us are going out to the range and we hired an instructor and we're all going to learn. Versus,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot less Instagrammable.
But guys,
I love guns.
but guys, you have to
love
imagine like a Saturday Night Live parody of right-wing gun ownership versus left-wing gun ownership is going to be hilariously different, right?
I could smell the straw man from here, though.
Yeah, of course. I mean, parody is about straw manning. But
all right.
okay.
I agree with
off the
removing it
table.
from both sides and leaving it and being done and moving on.
I don't think we agreed on both sides, Chad. I hate to burst your bubble there.
Fine, whatever. Just remove it. I don't care at this point.
It's being removed under dispute.
Let's just
Okay.
go one by one real quick. I clearly think gun promotion is a right leaning thing.
I don't.
There's two.
Yeah.
How about we just go person by person and majority wins? I don't know what to say at this point.
Well, I think you guys. I think this one needs to
The whole point of
be.
the exercise is to establish an agreed upon list, and if we can't, obviously we're not agreeing.
Yeah,
and
that
shouldn't be on the list.
You gotta explain it. You should explain yourself.
You guys,
on
just
why,
so you guys know that the goal is to find agreed upon differences. Ones that we generally like, and with obviously Chad seems to be an outlet with the more gun control one on the left. That's we are going to have some of that, and yes, of course, this process we're engaging in right now is subjective, but that's part of what makes it difficult.
Right.
Okay, so now the last item here, and then we can take a break and and then maybe come back in a while or tomorrow or whatever. Whatever you can legally negotiate is rightfully yours. On the right.
Ooh.
Right. I have a point to make over here. When we say rightfully, do we mean legally, or do we mean as in ethically?
Ethically.
No, just legal.
That's a good.
Ethically.
Yeah, legal.
Well, legally.
So
legally is
I was
obvious.
one that formulated that. So let me.
Is
let me
yours.
explain.
I'll take out rightfully. Whatever you
So
can
it's
legally
your-
negotiate is yours. There.
Well, obviously.
So Swaxy.
Legally yours.
Swaxy. No, Swaxy.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's fixed now.
I was the one that formulated that in the first place. So let me explain a little bit. If you have a negotiation between yourself and another person, and there's no undue influence involved one way or the other, then let's just say there's no what do you call it when somebody is really mean to the other person?
Bullying.
No, there's no, not exploitation.
Bullying.
Because exploitation is
bullying.
You're
bullying.
talking about duress. You're talking about duress.
No, there's no duress.
Coercion.
There's no situation of duress. There's no coercion. There's a willing participant on both sides of the argument. And someone says, "I'll give you $50 for that," and the other person says, "I'll take $50 for that."
What
One
about
person
tricking?
gets that, the other person gets $50.
I think that's a right-sided thing.
Wait,
That's
I'm not
so
sure.
a person on the right would say that negotiation was done morally, and a person on the left might say something like, "Well, really, that's only worth 25, and the guy that got 50 for it, he was
But I'm sorry.
exploiting the person that only wanted 25 for it."
Because people don't have agency. People don't have their own
That's a
agency.
bit of a straw man, though.
It is a straw man.
I would say that it really is context dependent, right?
Yes.
In today's day and age, in our society, I would think more people on the right would agree that in the way the systems are designed, and the way the systems are, generally, there is no real issue